Okay, so we're calling the meeting to order and the time is 7:17. Carol and Jessica will not be joining us. I don't know how to reference the permission we have now for meeting virtually, except to say that it's an extension of the previous provision made by the governor. So, you know, we're allowed to meet virtually. Is there anything anybody would like to add to tonight's agenda that's come up in the last 48 hours?
No.
Okay, I have a change to make to the agenda. The last item on the agenda was supposed to be a discussion in executive session about a letter of complaint. And we didn't really know exactly how to proceed with that. And I guess we didn't do it entirely right. So we won't be able to have that discussion in executive session. But I was advised that if we want to remove it from the agenda, we have to do it by a formal vote. So I'm going to make a motion that we formally remove the executive session discussion at the end of the agenda.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. I vote aye. Michael?
He's muted. Courtney, aye.
Thank you. Cindy?
Aye.
Michael, did you vote aye?
I'm voting aye now.
Thank you. I guess Neil is not here, so that's
Neil abstains.
Neil abstains. Motion passes. All right, I don't have a poetry reading.
In lieu of the poetry reading, we can just look at my picture. Do you like my purple milkweed?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
It's right next to my driveway.
Nice.
It was legally obtained.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have abundant Asclepia tuberosa. It's the orange one.
Yes.
If anybody wants it, you can have some of mine.
where does it grow?
Where does it grow? It loves full sun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is also growing next to a different part of my driveway, baking and in lousy, gravelly soil mess.
Yeah, I think it's pretty tough, but
Yeah.
I think it needs sun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and this is going to be a crazy meeting like the last one. I think we're going to have a lot of gaps between the hearings, but I put budget on the agenda thinking that Kelly would have something to report, but Kelly has declined to attend. So unless you have anything to say about the budget, Michael, we're going to move on from that.
No, I think we might have gotten it right. We'll just see how the final numbers come out as to
Right.
How we allocate some costs, like the kiosk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
we'll be discussing the kiosk a little bit later, once again.
Okay.
Okay, well, we can't open a hearing yet, so do we want to talk about minutes? Approve some minutes. You have the
Sure.
minutes from May 20th?
Yeah.
I can pull them up as usual.
Okay.
Sure, Michael, did you see, if you can go into your email, I emailed you a copy of a track change one that I did.
Oh, yeah, I haven't checked email since then.
No, I know, I sent it late. I sent it at like 5 or something like that, so. But if you go into your email, you'll find it.
I know I have my file too. I'm trying to figure
Oh,
out.
you did one?
It was so minor that I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, mine were all pretty minor too.
Maybe if you don't have many, you can see mine and then,
Sure.
let's see, let me reduce it here and share a screen. And let's see, I got to make sure I don't have anybody in the waiting room. There's a chat. Okay, now I see somebody made me the host. Hopefully I'll still see when people want to come in. Okay, maybe you want to tell me if you had anything. on the-
Sure, I have, don't go too far. Staff, Elizabeth Laracy and Joyce Hastings, interim agent. We need to add that after commissioners absent. Or maybe after guests or wherever you want to add it. I added it, in mine I added, I think after commissioners absent, I put in, we usually call or put it in staff.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, no, I'm only pausing because I heard a beep and I'm trying to figure out how I can let people in while I'm sharing the screen. Doesn't seem to. I'm going to stop sharing for a second to see. Oh, there it is. Okay, fine, I'll admit. No, it popped up. Okay, okay, so we have to add in, so here. Oh,
You just put staff, Michael, I'll fill it in.
yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay, go on.
And then just guest should be plural with an S.
Should I scroll down or anybody else, Courtney or Jean?
No, I'm just reading them now for the first time.
Are you reading them on my screen or your screen?
Paper,
Okay.
old fashioned paper.
I'm
Okay.
okay with this page, so we'll just
I'll
wait till
scroll down.
Jean finishes.
Can I just ask a question, a procedural question? Is Joyce here tonight as the interim agent or as like a representative of an applicant?
She's here as the interim agent.
Thank you.
Anything on this page?
Just Western Ave. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, fourth line down. I just changed, I took out weather to and said discussed the installation of 2 wetland markers.
Next.
I'm down at the Hildreth sign.
Yeah, I have some changes with that too. Go ahead though, Jean, because your change may cover mine.
The commission discussed the sign that the DP. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Oh.
Sandy.
So the thing, I don't recall us discussing a possible monthly collaboration with SFTA. What I remember is it was suggested that Kelly bring to the next SFTA meeting, working more collaborative, to work more collaboratively with the commission on future signage.
Yeah, Carol made the suggestion that there be sort of a monthly update or a monthly collaboration.
Oh, I guess I missed that.
Yep.
Okay.
I can drop the word monthly and change it to ongoing or
Fine.
regular collaboration,
That's fine.
which is fine. Changing it or leaving it.
Yeah, yeah. If people are, if monthly isn't accurate, although that was the suggestion, but it doesn't matter.
Well, we seem to talk about a few things.
The budget question, the next item.
Yeah,
Uh,
I bet it's there, but
It's actually $480, not $400.
although I think the warrant today has 460. I don't know. Well, we'll see.
And Michael, also, if you just go one more line down, it should be instead of combing, combining, just put an IN between the B and the I. I don't have anything else on this page. I don't think.
Anything else here?
I don't have anything.
I just have another question.
Yeah.
I know this was mentioned, I think, at the last meeting, but I didn't catch the reason why. Why are we now, like, we used to just say, you know, who's in attendance, and then we do the vote, say 6-0, just for instance. But I noticed on these meeting minutes, we list the name and the aye or the nay.
It's come
And
up.
I know it was discussed, but I don't remember the reason why we're doing
Well,
this now.
I don't know precisely why, but it came up recently that that is the way we are supposed to have been doing it all along.
I did a state ethics training thing, and they covered, I mean, the usual stuff, but they covered some of the new things that have come up with the emergency order. And they said that, you know, every time you take a roll call vote, you have to write out the roll call vote in the minutes. And since the order said that Zoom meetings have to be done with roll call votes, we need to record them as roll call.
Huh.
So if we were just voting in person and we're all just like aye, nay, then we don't have to write down who said what. But anytime it's a roll call vote, we got to write that down.
Huh.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Any other comments? We don't have much time.
Yeah, I do, Michael, under enforcement form. Second line, after seconded, it says to use, and then it says the use. So just take out the use. Yep, thank you. That's all I have.
I want to go back to the prior page, sorry, to where it says new volunteer. A commissioner introduced Nellie Binder, a new resident to Sherborn, who is interested in serving on the Conservation Commission. She would like to serve as an associate member.
Anything else on this thing?
Nope.
I move that we approve the minutes as edited.
Second.
Any discussion? Michael Lesser, aye. Everybody chime in.
Jean, aye.
Cindy, I.
Courtney, aye.
Motion
Okay.
passes.
We need to agree on an order like the Board of Health does, like alphabetical or something.
I think we could figure it out.
All right, so
Oops.
still not time for a hearing. One more minute.
I think we should ask Neil if he's going to come back in so he could be part of this.
The select board is actively discussing appointments right now, so I don't know if that's going to be done in a minute or if we should just ask Neil to.
Why do you want to ask him to join us? He's going to join us when he's free.
Okay. I
Okay.
didn't know if we were like, how much wiggle room we had with the hearing.
Well, so it's 7:30 now. And Joyce, did you want to tell us the status of this?
Well, while I'm still acting as interim, I prefer not to present anything to the board. So I will need to continue this again. And am crossing my fingers that you find someone shortly. Or I will find someone to present this.
Okay, it
In
sounds
my
like your office mates are too busy.
Well, it's very, very busy schedules right now. So it's not, it just hasn't worked out at this moment. Several other towns meet the same night. So
Yeah,
I am trying to work this in because the project, they would like to start the project, although this isn't holding too much up at this moment.
well, is it worth our while to try to pull in Karen? Because, she'd have to familiarize herself with the project.
It's more presenting it than you all hearing it. It's more, I prefer not to be a.
Right. Did you work up a revised plan?
I did, yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you and I talk about this offline?
Thank you.
Okay.
So is this,
So you're asking to continue
I
again.
am.
When shall we continue it to? Next
Well, if you
meeting
could-
or?
If you continue the next meeting, but put it on at the end of the meeting,
Okay.
that would work.
What do you have, Elizabeth?
We could do 9:30.
Okay. Um,
And now.
Good. Good for you, Joyce.
Yes,
Okay, I move that we continue the hearing for 211 Farm Road to July 15th at 9:30. I hear a second.
And
All those in favor, Jean, aye.
Michael, I.
Cindy, I.
Courtney, I.
Motion passes. Okay,
Okay.
back to discussions.
Let's see, who do we got here?
I can talk about the peer review.
Okay, do we want to ask? Yeah, we could do that. Do we want to ask what Brian Moore is here for? If it's some discussion that he's here
Let's
for?
ask. Hi, Brian.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Just celebrating the Dover Sherborn boys lacrosse division victory.
Oh, they won. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it's very exciting. No, I'm here to speak on matters unrelated to my lot. Well, related to my lot, but as a function of 55.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so that starts at 8 o'clock.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okey doke. So we can go on. Yes. Go on with your list, Jean.
Peer review, I sent you all the newest peer review proposal. It's line by line, exactly as the same as the one that we received in March, except for a slight increase in the total cost. The increase is $210. So, and we did invite the applicant to come, although we did tell him that we didn't have this at a prescribed time of the night. And I'm happy to send the proposal to him. I just didn't think of it. And I suppose that is in order, because the next thing that I know that we should be doing is setting up the special account. And so we will have to reach out to the applicant to do that. And unless there's some other step that I'm missing that has to happen before that.
Mhm.
Is there?
No, I assume we would do it after we open the hearing. And that we would, or-
Well, that's actually, thank you. That's what I was wondering, since the hearing is going to be advertised in the paper next week. The hearing is opening on July 15th. So since we already have the notice of intent, I was hoping that we could, begin the process of setting up the special account for peer review. Do you have any reason to believe that we have to wait until we open the hearing? We already discussed it back in March.
I guess I guess we can open the account, but that, I wouldn't want to vote on this. Are you saying we just go to open the account, but we actually vote on doing this once the hearing is open?
I'm asking for advice. I thought that since it was already established, and this was only on a technicality that we had to wait for a second filing, I was, optimistic that we could just move forward once we received the filing.
I guess I'd rather wait until we actually just formally have the applicant here and we go over that they had any comment on this scope, even though it's not necessarily
I
negotiation.
know, but what does that change, Michael? What does that change if?
We don't,
I would imagine we could just open the account. I mean, I don't know what the legal process is, but I would imagine we could open the account, right?
well, that's what I'm asking, but I'm confused about what we would have to vote on, because we already accepted this proposal back in March. It's the same proposal.
Right.
And it's the same notice of intent.
so what if you forwarded the proposal to the applicant and asked him to set up an account with you? And then you're ready to go.
Isn't the account though set up for the town?
Right, he would work with you to set up the account.
Right, seems okay to me to do that. If he has some objection, that would be his opportunity to raise it.
So most other towns do start it ahead of the meeting, only so that you can perhaps have, on less complicated projects, um, some of your review done prior to the first meeting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but you won't. I don't know that they'll be completed before the meeting, but at least you won't be delaying it.
Well,
So-
so unless anybody objects, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Reach out to the applicant, send him the proposal, ask him if we can proceed with setting up a special account and see what he says.
Yeah, I don't object to that. I
Sure.
think it's fine.
I'm fine with that, and then we can resolve it as the beginning of the next meeting or beforehand, depending on what they reply.
Yeah.
Okay, Joyce, did you want to, can you go over your question about the filing fee for the notice of intent?
When they filed the last time, they filed for 3 buildings, and then we sent them off an email that said that they also had 5 point source discharges that increased the fees. And my question was, are you still going with the same fees that you had before? Is that why there are no fees as part of this? But their application does not reflect the corrected fee schedule.
The application now does not reflect all of the stormwater basins? Is that what you're saying?
No, it doesn't. What I meant to say, it doesn't. The fees that they listed is the same as they did originally the first time. It doesn't show the added fees for the 5 point source discharges.
Additional
Okay.
checks afterwards.
So they gave an additional check for that. I'm just saying their current application is still reflecting the 3 buildings and not the additional 5 point source discharges. I
So,
believe they've filed the proper fees. They just haven't corrected their form.
oh, okay. That seems simple enough. Elizabeth, does that make sense to you? Can you convey that to them?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, so they asked us to just roll the fee
Yep.
into the new applications. The money is okay, it's just the documentation is not, you're
Right.
saying. Okay. That was easier than I feared. Is there, Michael, do you have any update on Coolidge Crossing since the last meeting?
No, other than I assume I wasn't able to. I guess I haven't seen the final, I don't know when the final permit, comprehensive permit is being issued. I haven't had a chance, I didn't have time to check on their final meetings and whether it's available. I guess, Elizabeth, can you actually contact Jeannie as a ZBA person and just ask her for the final comprehensive permit whenever it's available?
Sure.
Or get the status of it. I don't know. I can't remember once they close it and vote it. It should be ready and get it to all of us, basically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, I guess we can't do the Asian position update because Neil's doing that.
How are we dealing with Coolidge Crossing in terms of, are we clear as to who's our interim agent on that project, even coordinating with the consultant?
I asked Joyce and we talked about it briefly, and I don't think we reached a conclusion. I think Joyce is really hoping that we hire a new agent pretty soon.
Well, it's-
Joyce,
No,
you saw
I'm happy to help out. It's just I am going as fast as I can with the things that need to be done.
yeah. Well, my interpretation of what you might do if you were acting as the agent for this, given the fact that we have the peer review going on, it are, simple things like your comments today about the fee, just the slightly more highly detailed administrative things that don't normally come under Elizabeth's purview. Because you don't have to review the flags, the peer reviewer is going to do that. And I guess I would just ask if you could pay attention to things as they go along, and if you see anything missing.
Right, I can do that.
Yeah, we could see how it goes in terms of, the question is who's going to just be checking with the consultant on when they're producing stuff, and whether Joyce has the time versus we are the only ones reviewing the work that comes in, or whether who meets with the consultant just to talk to them along the way. It's sort of a little of that kind of stuff, whether, I mean, I guess I could help with that. And by the way, I have an issue of whether we're calling this peer review or consulting services. I thought under the Wetlands Protection Act that we can have technical support for reviewing projects, which is a little bit different than just purely peer review. Is that something that makes sense to anybody else?
I don't have my own opinion. I'll just say that, the people who we're hiring is a well-established consultant firm. And I think that they're using the term peer review. And if we're happy with the scope of services, then I think what's in a name?
You can call it then consulting services.
It's only because peer review, sometimes people say, is strictly related to reacting to stuff that the applicant has provided, where in this case, we're asking for possibly more support in terms of conditions that might not be there, which one could say is a gray area as to we're commenting on what they didn't supply. So I'd rather call it consulting services, just to make sure we don't get hung up.
Well, okay, so just where would you like that changed? On all the documentation? I mean, I'm not being smug. He's already calling it peer review. What do you want?
Oh, I see.
Where do you change it?
I didn't notice that. I did not look at the actual.
Peer review consulting services. He's covering all the bases.
Right. Yes, I did not look at the actual title of the proposal. I guess before we sign it, I'll go try to read up and see whether there's a difference.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay. Where are we on time? Still
Yes.
got 16 minutes. Wow, we're going to run out of things to talk about. So my questions about the new kiosk, and I'm sorry to bring this up again. I thought it was resolved, but we had decided that the kiosk, which has been built, by the way, and is ready to go, should go at the entrance on McGregor Drive. And I think everybody agreed that's where we should put it. And then it popped into my head that this is it's an invitation. People who don't know that there's this land back there are now going to see that there is, and more people are going to go. And that's fine, except that it's a body of water and it's surrounded by a dense neighborhood. And I just suddenly thought, oy, is this going to be a safety hazard? And then I tried to balance my thinking by saying, okay, well, we have Leyland Mill Pond, but that's a very different setup. The sign, you can hardly see the sign. The reservation is back from the road. It's surrounded by sparsely inhabited neighborhoods. So I'm bringing this up to ask if we should change our minds and put the sign in the woods so that it's not quite an open invitation.
If folks want to, I did take pictures of both the street view and I hand drew in a little red sign. Just
Michael, they're in the Dropbox.
They're in the box. They're in the Dropbox. And I also took a picture. I know when we first started discussing this way back when, we were talking about putting the sign like not right on the bank of the pond, but pretty darn close to the bank of the pond, right kind of down by the pond. And the picture that I took is actually Yes, so this picture right there that you're on right now, Michael, that's actually at the juncture of the trail. So this is sort of, if you will, that grassy area in front is kind of like a triangle. And so you have the trail going off to the right, which goes down towards the pond. The trail that goes to the left goes around the pond. And then there's one that comes, you can't see here, but it goes either side and leads off to different areas. So this is not on the bank. This is at the road.
So how do people feel about this? I'm okay with putting it in the woods.
Well, the shot that I took in the woods is it's between this. It's not equidistant, but it is between this and the bank of the pond, which is what we initially months ago were talking about.
Yeah, I think having it at the juncture of the trails and making it clear which way to go to get to the quarry pond, that's a valuable thing. I mean, I think it's also valuable to have it right at the pond's edge, but.
Right, I think there were reasons why, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but there were reasons why people cited they didn't want it on the pond's edge. I think one was visibility and like not just visibility, but the viewing of the pond. Somebody, I know somebody mentioned that. I can't remember the other aspects that were mentioned, but I know that is why we talked about moving it from the edge of the pond anyway.
Did anybody ever, did we ever get out, we got a letter to the neighborhood?
We did, yes, we did send a letter out to the
Did
neighborhood.
we get any replies from anybody about?
No, not that I'm aware of anyway.
I don't think so. Elizabeth's never reported any replies.
Do we want to use this occasion of showing what this kiosk looks like and a map and showing a few locations and send it out again to people just to see if it's another way of involving the community and seeing if we can get some response? Since I don't know how urgent it is that we do this versus it's just a tool to send it out again. And
The only urgency I think in doing this was I think we were trying to get that sign in before the pond drained away again. So because there were that foil, that specialty plant that was in there that comes out when the water drains away. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the water. Right now it's pretty full, but you know, last year it drained.
Yeah.
I mean, last year it all went away. It all evaporated and was gone. And I don't know what's going to happen later this summer with it. or
except
fall.
for whether we have the,
So I think that was the reason for the sign going up anyway, because of that, because it was a sensitive plant out there.
I
And-
guess
and we
I'd
didn't
still rather use it as a way to prod people again and see if we can get somebody involved.
Yeah, I just don't know who's going to do that, Michael. I'm not going to take that on because I'm going to work on the mosquito spraying thing, and that's going to take a lot of my time.
I applaud the gesture, Michael, but given that nobody replied to the first round, I think we should just go with how the commission feels.
Well, I'm only thinking that this is a very concrete thing because, I mean, the issue here is whether you're saying how publicly noticeable is this whole trail thing there? I mean, part of me would say, right.
Well, if you want me to jump in with somebody else's opinion, my husband weighed in when I showed him, you know, what we were thinking about doing. He said, "Why would you put a sign like that right on the road in somebody's neighborhood? Why would you do that? Why would you do that?" He was not a fan of putting the sign on the road because he feels like it's McGregor's neighborhood and it's an infringement on their peace and quiet of their neighborhood. So that's one resident's opinion.
Mhm.
I see you know, I don't, when I saw the picture of it going right on the side of the road, I'm like, if that's right near people's houses, I can see why we wouldn't want to put it there, though I don't like the idea of it being completely unmarked and secret, you know what I mean? because then it feels like we're trying to hide it from people, and it's a public thing. I would be in favor of putting like the kiosk, which is a big structure with all the information, like back where, Cindy is describing at a trail juncture. And then, like on Green Lane, there's like a very small, like subtle sign that's like Green Lane Trail. It's not like in your face, but you know what I
We
mean?
do actually have, Courtney, there is a brown and white sign
Yeah.
that exists at the head of the trail that leads into McGregor Quarry Pond. That is exactly that. It says trail. It has a little arrow pointing in. It's very unobtrusive.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Okay, if knowing that sign's there, I'm fine with putting it in the woods.
Okay, great. Everybody agree?
I'm fine with it, with putting it in the
Okay.
woods.
Um,
I actually just thought of another place we could put it, but I'll just leave it where it is.
Yeah, let's
I just thought of it now.
let's drop it.
You want to say the name? You want to just wait to Michael?
Okay, folks, where are we?
Okay, hi, James.
Neil's here.
I am
Yeah.
back from the wars.
I guess you have 7 minutes to report if you want.
Sure.
Well, it's not
what am
on
I
the
reporting?
agenda.
Is reappointment on the agenda?
No.
Hi.
Okay. I'll just say this.
We're not discussing it.
There
Well,
you go.
We
Because it's
can't.
not on the agenda.
Sorry, I keep making those mistakes.
Can
Yes,
I,
Joyce?
with 7 minutes, can I ask a question?
Please.
I walked a property for an AA a couple weeks ago, and they are looking to put up a dog fence, unrelated to the AA, and it would be within almost 50 feet of an adjacent wetland, but entirely within lawn. The existing lawn goes up to, I don't know, within maybe 15 feet of the edge of the wetlands, and it's well established, not new, older house. But they want to put up an enclosed dog fence that attaches to their house. So given that it was entirely within the lawn and the access is right off the end of the driveway for installing this fence, I said it wouldn't be appropriate, an AA wouldn't be appropriate, and that they shouldn't just put it up. But I thought that a request for determination would be the application that they should file. But having some discussions in the past, I just wanted to run that by you before following through. I don't know what a notice of intent would give you, given that
I want to say we've had similar things before, and we've done them through an RDA. What do others remember?
I'd be fine with an RDA.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where I wish we didn't even have to do that, but
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
stick
Thank
to
you.
stuff. Okay. Any other site issues, Joyce?
No.
Are
Nothing
things
else.
slowing down a little bit? I mean, not for,
I think so. I mean, I'm not caught up yet, but yes, they're slowing down. I see. I think Elizabeth would have a better handle on that.
it's good to hear. Okay, well, how many minutes have we got? Neil, do you want to try to tackle agent position update in 5 minutes?
I can do it. Agent position has been, I've been working with select board to get the position posted through basically, this is the process we're going to take it through. We're going to go for a reclassification of the agent position with the personnel board first to make it up to 35 hours. Regular part-time is just the way they list it, and benefited. And so that is going to come before the personnel board sometime this month. If that goes through, then we would go back to the select board depending on, well, actually, we'd only go back to the select board once we have a clear sense of how much funding we would need for this year. and where that money would come from, and if it has to come through a reserve fund transfer or something else, the select board would have to approve, because it's not even clear that it would have to. So the first step we're taking is reclassifying the position. We're going to advertise. We're going to advertise as up to 35 hours. In fact, we already have a revised job description that I've given back to David Williams and Jeannie Guthrie today, that you're going to post on the website and on MMA, and then we will post a revised, we'll take the language from that and revise our own job postings for our other locations to post the job at 35 hours and benefited. So, 2 minutes.
I hope the personnel board can meet with us at their earliest opportunity.
My understanding, my initial feedback is that it will happen sometime this month, but people are on vacation, so they're gonna do what they can to fit it in.
Okay.
So slowly, but help is on the way.
Well, you got 2 minutes to kill, and then we have to open a hearing. And we have almost cleared all of our.
Let me ask you a question. Did you move to remove the last item on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can do AAs.
Okay. Administrative approvals, 91 Western Avenue, garage addition. And, sorry. 124 Bogastow Brook Road, irrigation well. Those are the only two?
Mhm.
Okay, this work was outside of our jurisdiction. Still 2 minutes.
Joyce, you were muted when you were
Yeah,
talking.
thank you. I have not issued the 124 Bogastow Brook Road. That one should go out in the next couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
We're done with everything else under discussion?
No, I was going to talk briefly about the Stormwater Workshop, but I think it's going to take me more than 1 minute.
Okay.
But maybe
Was
only
it fun?
3.
What's that?
It was interesting.
See, I knew I would rather do that than my real job.
It was interesting. It was an interesting environment more than anything else.
That's the kind of thing I love.
All right.
Well, it's 7:59.
Pull up your legal
after
notice.
all.
Now,
Whoa, it's true.
I was watching the clock.
There you go. Excuse me?
Sorry, I just had a question. This is unrelated to any matters whatsoever in front of the board tonight. If someone brings something to one of these meetings as a member of the public and they wanted to show it to the rest of the board members, do you have the means to do that electronically, or do I have to hold it up in front of a camera?
If it's something that's on the agenda, we can accommodate you. If you want to display it, we can
You
have
can
that
share
happen.
your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Should I dive into 55 Farm Road here?
Please.
All right. Notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission of the Town of Sherborn is holding a virtual public hearing at Sherborn Town Hall, 19 Washington Street at, that's not right, 8 p.m. on this first day of July 2021. The hearing is held pursuant to Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws as amended, the Wetland Protection Act, and the Sherborn Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 17, to consider a proposal by Creative Land and Water Engineering, LLC, on behalf of Robert Murchison for soil testing. That's not right either. For well drilling.
Right.
Work will take place at 55 Farm Road, map 11, lot 60 in Sherborn. Work to be performed within the 100-foot buffer zone. This application is available for viewing the Sherborn Conservation Office All persons desiring to be heard will be given an opportunity to speak at this hearing. Okay, DeShang is on the slopes.
Good evening. So we go. So we had the wetland review and the well location review with Joyce first last week, and then the past Saturday, I think we missed the chair, but most of members showed at the side look on the wetlands. And there's a good amount of adjustment, especially, well, we're talking about the 65 later. But so there's some minor changes. The major one, I don't know if I need to bring up the map to talk about it, or I'm given the right to share my screen, or,
You should be able to.
okay. Yeah.
Just curious, when was the adjustment to the wetland line made?
Last Wednesday, and partially one more on Saturday on the 65, but the most of the wetland frac was adjusted during the site work with Joyce last week. It's Wednesday. Yeah.
So
And then
you're
we
gonna-
sent survey, sorry.
DeShang, hold on. Jean has a question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. The plan that you're pulling up is the one that you submitted yesterday. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct. Yeah, so the field changes, I think all the members already saw it. And given the limited time, so we did get the surveyor there on Thursday or Friday. And then he surveyed all the wetland flags and put on the plan, except the one flag we adjusted on the 65, but which we will talk about later. So let me try to get the share first.
Has anybody been able to check that the plans look like they reflect?
Yeah,
Well,
I,
right.
I
My
did-
only issue is that this is a set of new plans that's come in yesterday, which does not give us a tremendous amount of time to review it for accuracy, much less anything else that's been added to it.
So just to, if I could, I did print out the plans that DeShang submitted yesterday and went through all the flags that we had changed in the field. I had dimensions in the field that from other reference points. And so I have gone through and marked up all the changes that he made, and it is in agreement with what we had talked about in the field.
Does, Joyce, does the location of, well, does it change appreciably the distance of the wells to the wetland line?
It does, but I'll let him go through the presentation for that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So appreciate it that Joyce took the time and in a short time to go through the flags as I explained. So most of the flags actually Joyce made and field notes on the distance reference to the old plan. So on the nearby flags. So the changes I would like to go through is this area. There's a finger wetlands. Let me see if I can grow up. So from B1A1 through B1A5, so which means those flags are branched out, continued from B1. A is additional, so additional 1, 2, 3. So picking up this finger wetlands mostly generated from, sorry, I have to use in a little different function. Okay, so this is better now. Okay, so there's a culvert under the driveway, which picking up some town's water come all the way to here. So that's why you can see it's a little bit finger shaped. So this is the wetlands had most impact on the well location. We have, because of this, so we have to shift a little bit of the well location, but we still can manage it to putting in outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. The other wetlands, number 15, which have a less, it's a 6-foot, you can see the old one we kept, so moved the 6 foot up to the 15 end. And and 17 and 18 is a 12-foot up, so which is corrected. And then 24 and the 24 end is about 4 feet. So, and then we added 29A, and so this part was cut off. So generally, the B31 from B25, which is all kind of, it's a small upland island because it's not going to impact the project from the setback, no disturb zone. So we cut that off. And so the last one is a 36A, so they're picking up a low spot over here. So that's the wetland change. So at the meeting, the commission asked us to get an like a rough house. It's like a conceptual. So there's a plenty frontage to be divided into 2 lots. And we had done soil testing over here. And you can see with all the buffer, this is a setback from the septic. So it's really, we have to put the well outside of even the existing soil observation system, putting us almost as leaving us very little area we can do beyond the 50-foot and set back 150 feet from the leaching field. So this is a kind of proposed house with like a 60, with a minimum 60 feet setback from the street. So that's, again, this is just conceptual, so sort of illustrating, because all the good soils are in this valley. So here's the wetlands. We have to be 125 feet away from any wetlands. So that's limited our septic systems all in this area. So that's, I think, one of the major reasons that why we put the well as close to the wetlands as we are proposing. So sort of, we're all aware of Sherborn has both domestic well water supply and on-site wastewater treatment. So there's all this public safety and health concern setbacks. So you can see all this knot lines is all setback lines. It's after looking at it, it's really don't leave us that much choice. So this is the location. While we were looking there, we don't really require to cut the tree. It's accessible from the existing driveway, coming in and drill the well. So we feel that's probably the minimum environmental impact location. So I think I will stop at here. And we also, you can see, we provided more detailed contour mapping. There's lots of places, cliff, and we walk the side. You see in the back is really difficult to access. So it's all like a hilly and a ledge outcrop. So I think that's basically, it will be like a conventional single family house. So put this way, it's the applicant is looking for, and the applicant is out of town in California. So it's a family time, vacation time. So I don't know if he would be able to make to the meeting. I just give you a quick message from him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Deshang, just a quick question for you. Is there a reason why you've decided to go forward with NOIs for just the wells? I know that the homes that are proposed are probably not as far along, but generally, I think we see these things as kind of a package deal. The house is going in, the well's going in. I'm just curious if there's a reason you've sequenced it this way.
Yes, so it's a good question. So it's basically, as an engineer, you know, it's not easy to get a house developed in Sherborn because of all the limitations on soils and the wetlands. So we trying to minimize or to clear out any uncertainties. So the first thing, of course, is the soil condition. If you don't have a soil condition, we just cannot propose any a house. And then, so the second is the wetlands and the well. So all the setbacks, so the wetlands. So we need to get that agreed. So before we do the full speed of the development, definitive design. So that's the sequence as strategic, and as you can understand why we do that. We trying to minimize the risk and the cost on a full blow if we cannot achieve, if we try to do a definitive design, assuming everything is right. So we know everything cannot be right until, as far as wetland goes, until the commissions agreed with all the wetland lines and the location we can drill well. And then until the Board of Health agreed with us on soil conditions. So all those have to be step by step. We were doing that. So.
Okay. Just a quick thing. I noticed, Brian, are you here as an abutter?
Yes.
All right. Are you observing? You had asked about present. Is there something you wanted to show us or present?
If Deshang is done speaking about I believe that the notice was given solely for the purposes of them installing additional wells in the area subject to your jurisdiction. The plan that is being shown tonight looks nothing like the plan that we received. It actually shows houses and SASs on it, which weren't on the plans that were distributed. But all that being said, yes, I'm here to comment as an abutter.
Yes,
Okay.
I would like to address Mr. Moore's comments on that. That's not our intention. You are right. Our filing still for the well, not for the house approval, and obviously they cannot approve it. So the reason we put it on is upon the request of the commission members during our side meetings. They want to understand why the well is located and cannot be moved further away from the buffer zone. So it's so when these things are presented, so they can see clearly with all the Board of Health requirement, we just cannot put in any further inside. So
Yeah,
Well,
just for
I'm here to
illustration purpose.
I'm
Yeah.
here to present some other information related to the abutting land, which might not be readily in front of the commission at this point in time, but that my wife and I have been working on very hard and spending our hard-earned money on working with the commission to try to get it permitted. And none of these plans seem to reflect that. And that's one of the things I wanted to present tonight.
Neil,
Yes.
so I think it's helpful to look at these to make sure we separate the two projects, because I think sometimes the conversation goes into the other.
Okay.
Like, separate the two properties because they are two separate things. And, you know, my thing, what I'm looking for here is that, like you said, it's a little bit unusual for us to consider not a package deal. And so, again, it's really hard to figure out why something needs to go in a jurisdictional area versus not. And I'm not sure that, like, we can't necessarily approve the plan that, okay, we can put house one here, SAS here. Like, that is informative, I guess. But I mean, really, all we have right now that is laid out is the well. And I think it's a little bit easier to think about for 55. Are we talking about 55 right now? Yes.
Yes.
Because, you know, some of this it's hard to look at now because there are the, you know, the theoretical systems on it. I get what he's saying here, Deshang is saying here, but just knowing where the existing things are.
Yeah, it's existing.
Right. So if you look at the existing buffer zones, the existing slopes on the site, and where all the setbacks are and wells and stuff, you know, and septics and whatnot, this site, it seems like there probably aren't a lot of other places to install a well. So if we just focus on looking at that and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, let me just make one comment, which is, I understand, Mr. Moore, your concern, and I mean, I think when I first saw the stuff added, I was not in the site visit, but it was requested that to get an understanding of why they were being cited. And I think DeShang addressed this. He added those elements to the site plan, but they are not what we would be approving. We're approving.
I'm not saying that that's what you're approving. I'm just.
Oh, no.
pointing out the
I
fact that this
wasn't
is
saying you're saying that. I think I'm just trying to speak for everybody, which is we have before us a proposal for a well in a certain location. And I think that's what we have to focus on.
Okay.
So
I do
sorry.
still have this stuff to share. I mean, I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the process. If I wait till the end and I, get my 5 cents in, or if I do it all now, it's up to you guys.
I mean,
And you're-
normally people on the
Five?
commission make their comments first, and then we open it up to the public.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Michael, you were raising your hand. Did you have something you wanted to add? You're muted.
I'll add something now, and I'll probably want to comment. I want to hear what Brian has to say. But right, I agree with what Courtney said, but I even find doing it, the logic that you, DeShang, talked about, why you're doing this sequentially doesn't make any sense to me still. Because if anything, the well could be put in more places than the septic system. And so the idea that somehow doing this well on its own is going to give you more info still doesn't make a lot of sense to me, as opposed to it's that you normally want to see it all together, that I don't see why the well is sequential. But on the other hand, I don't think we have any jurisdiction or regulatory right to say we can't just approve a well. If
Right.
that's what you want to ask. And I just look at the well on its own, and my issue of whether if it's in jurisdiction versus not in jurisdiction, whether the fact that it's if it wasn't for the fact that the well itself is a fairly small and not a significant impact, and it might have a temporary impact, but that won't have a significant impact in the longer term, just on its own right in the outer buffer. That's what I would just evaluate it on the basis of, whether just that one activity there creates a significant adverse impact to the wetlands, which probably it won't, given where it is and the access to it, and no tree cutting, and the fact that they can restore the area around the well. But yes, all the other stuff is almost, and I would only approve something that it's subject to any cumulative impact of whatever they come forth with next.
Okay.
That's
Cindy's got her hand up as well.
Thank you, Neil. DeShang, please remind me, how far is that well from the wetlands, both to the west and to the south?
It's a 50 feet. You can see the green line, which is a 50
Oh,
foot
sorry,
buffer.
I was looking for that and I was having trouble seeing it, but now that your cursor is there, I see it.
Okay, yeah, you can see.
So it's
we also
right
have-
on the 50.
Right, we are right on because we also have to be 20 feet from the existing driveway. So that's why us probably only have like about 6 foot area to drill with.
Yeah,
So
and
it's-
that well, that's with the new finger there that comes out.
That's
takes
correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry, Jean, were you going to say something?
No,
Okay.
I did have one other quick question. Sorry.
Please. No, go ahead.
The SAS1, SAS2, SAS3, DeShang, are those, I know that they're just theoretical, but are those possible spots for the septic system for that house one, or are you also suggesting like SAS 2 is for, oh, I see, house 2, and then SAS 3 is for house 3, even though those are a different address?
That's correct. Yeah. So it would, so it would be down the road to have to, after we get all the data corrected, analyzed, and we have done soil testing, but we haven't get the soil finalized, approved by the Board of Health. But it's conceptual, but it is very likely. So the soil condition, we believe, can accommodate the septic system there. So it's not just totally theoretical. So we have done soil testing with the Board of Health at this point.
Okay, thank you. And one last question just for the commission. I thought I had heard something about preserving rock walls in Sherborn. I know that doesn't fall to us, but I'm just asking.
That's if it's along a, what's it called, scenic road.
Oh, it doesn't apply to
It
stuff in
doesn't
the
apply
woods or
to
in fields.
interior rock
Thank
walls.
you. Okay, thanks.
Plus,
There's-
we're not doing anything with that house one. I'm basically ignoring it.
Yeah, we can't
Yeah,
approve
it's
a
not,
square.
yes. It doesn't exist.
No permission is given.
Or granted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact, if we approve this project, this is not the site plan that will go in.
Oh, yeah, right. I would remove this from our record, right?
I don't know if we can do that,
it
but
wouldn't be the one attached to the
Right.
yeah.
NOI.
Excuse me, I misspoke,
Yeah.
especially since it's also in jurisdiction, but but yeah. Okay, I might want to comment on a few more things, but I'd still like to see where we go through it, the rest of us, and then Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. Does the commission have any other comments, or can we recognize Mr. Moore and let him make his comments?
I have no comment now.
Okay. Brian, go ahead.
He wants to share his screen, I think.
Okay.
I'm delighted. I've always wanted to raise my hand on a Zoom meeting, so I finally got to do it.
You want to
Okay.
try some of the other reactions?
No, the other reactions I can't put on the web, I don't think. But we'll
That's
start
right.
with this one.
Put on your face.
Thank you. So I just have a couple of comments. The first ones are that we're actually very friendly with Bob and his wife and have known them for some time. And we recognize that the applicant has one parcel with something like 8 acres next to us. And it is not our position that he should be prevented from developing that in accordance with the existing zoning and setback laws and Concom and all the other stuff in town. So that's not our position, and that's not why we're here tonight. I also want the commission to know I called and left a message for Bob on either his house or cell phone just yesterday, explaining what I was going to appear here for, to give him fair warning, because I didn't want him to feel as though I was, popping out from behind a tree to try to scare him off. But we live in a house next door to 55. It's a awkward shaped parcel. It's non-conforming because the structure is basically built along one of the property lines. We're spending a lot of money with surveyors and land court during a time of COVID to try to correct the property line so the house will be conforming to existing zoning laws through a land swap and a something in front of the planning board that wouldn't require, I think they call it like an NTS plan or something. I don't know what it's called, but basically a plan that would straighten out the lot line with our other neighbor so that our house would conform to existing setback requirements moving forward as just part of our ownership and tenure here in Sherborn. The other thing that we did is that when we moved in, we have done many like sweat equity improvements to our home, putting gardens, and obviously we like living here and we're part of the community. We are on a septic system, which is a cesspool behind our house, which categorically fails any kind of property transfer. And we filed paperwork with the Concom to start the process of, on our own dime, before selling the house, installing a conforming septic system for our existing property. As you can imagine, none of these things have been on the cheap. So we were a little dismayed to see that a well was going to be placed with something like almost 50% of protective radius off of the property, which is 8 acres. It seems like they've got a lot of land back there. DeShang talked about the topography and the slopes. The slopes really weren't much of a problem for the track excavator that went to the back of the lot to look for perkable soils and took down a bunch of trees along the way. That didn't seem to be a problem for the track excavator. I don't think a drill rig is going to be much of a problem for a drill rig either if they want to go in and put a well somewhere else out of your jurisdictional area. Unfortunately, it would mean more pipe, but from my perspective as the homeowner next door, that's not really my concern, because I'm going to share with you a picture of where we're at right now. If you can see here, this is a rough CAD drawing of where our house is. Can you see the cursor?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is our house. Our lot is way bigger than this, but everything beyond blue we can't touch because it's your guys' jurisdiction. This orange line is the property line on the other side. As you can see, it's very close. So we're straightening this out with George Fisk on our own dime to try to have the house conform. And over here is the side with 55. This is our well. It's our garage. Here's our cute little house. This area between the red and blue lines in here is essentially the only, I don't know, 800, 1,000 square feet on our parcel where we could put a septic out of our 4 acres. Okay. Here's approximately, this is not accurate to scale, but it's pretty close. This blue dot over here is the approximate location of where they placed the well next to the driveway next door. Now, if you were to just, it's actually closer than this. After looking at the pictures here, I think he's moved it more over to where my cursor is. You can see that the wetlands line here prevents us from doing anything in here. Yet, if this well, this is a 150-foot protective radius as just an assumption. If that well were to be used for anything other than something that would require 150-foot radius protective radius, you could see it would very quickly eat into the only area on our entire parcel where we can put in SAS. Now, I'll put my cursor where our existing septic is, okay? And this is where we want to put it. And this is non-conforming, and this is conforming. The process for permitting a septic system, I don't have to tell you guys how long that takes, but the process for permitting a well can be as short as one visit to the Concom. And once the well is in, it's almost as if someone has staked their claim. And I'm not saying that this is someone is using the well as a way to stake claim on portions of the land or anything like that. But I'm saying once it goes in, that well is a fact that can't be ignored. I mean, I could go over here and put in a new well for myself and destroy opportunities for them to use portions of their land for SAS. I'm not interested in doing that, and I'm not interested in making this a big controversy, but this is my 1,000 square foot area that I can do anything to conform with your own bylaws. And, you know, this radius goes up to 200 feet and I'm SOL. So I have concerns that this well is maybe not in the best location for those of us who are already restricted by the zoning and setbacks that the town has in place. And I did apply first for my test pits. I don't know if that's carries any weight, but that's where my wife and I are with this, and we look forward to any comments.
I have an initial question. You're saying that you're worried that the radius for the well that's being proposed could increase from the 150 feet it is now. Why is that? Because if it's it's being proposed as a well for a single family home, and that's how it's come before us. So are you,
I don't know. I don't know. I know that once a well goes in, what if it gives a bunch of water and it's gonna, the dynamics of the project change to something else? I don't know. All I know is it's being proposed as a single family well. When you guys approve it, does that metric of it being a well for a single residence reside on the approval? Or does that just disappear because the well's now in the ground?
So I mean, I really feel for you and your concerns, and this is a thorny issue. My worry is that this is not something that we have any power to address. I don't know where we go with that. Like, because we can't take into consider, we can look at, you know, should it be further from a wetland? We can't really take into account, like, you know, I'm not saying this is a spite well, you know, but, you know, there's like situations like that where people put wells that are too close or to prevent somebody else from doing something. It's just, I don't know that we can do anything with the position of the well over concerns about, I mean, I get it. I'm like, yeah, it is better for the wetlands, it's better for everybody for you to move your septic. And I think it's great that you guys are doing it. I just don't know if we have a mechanism to even address that. I mean, and we are only one approval for a well, you know what I mean? So we can approve the location based on whether it's kosher with the wetlands.
Well, let me, if I can refine maybe my observation. The applicant has brought in front of you a request to put a well in a convenient location relative to, I guess, a new residence that might be going in that's completely conforming. Unfortunately, you know, the problem is that it might affect the value and use of our property moving forward and our ability to permit a conforming system with this very board. And I would rather settle this here at the local level than wind up in a bunch of appeal stuff at the state level. And for that reason, I'm wondering if Deshaun could speak to the applicant's desire or ability to investigate other locations on the 8-acre parcel where a well could go aside from that, which is super convenient next to the existing driveway, right where, you know, right next to where we want to put a septic.
So but what I'm saying is, like, I totally agree with you. I don't know if that happens here though, or if it happens at the Board of Health, or because we have a very limited scope, unfortunately.
hold on, before, I just wanted to make a comment, because I think that, I mean, if the well radius were to increase, the protective radius were to increase, and you couldn't put a septic system there, I mean, in theory, if the only place you could locate it is where the existing cesspool is now, which is in the inner buffer zone, that's where you'd put it. And it could be a conforming system that would be less good for the wetlands. But I mean, Courtney's right to the degree that this is, I mean, you can ask Deshang that question about locating it somewhere else, but we have to assess it solely based on its impact to wetlands or the potential impact to wetlands, and whether or not we can condition it in a way that it doesn't have that adverse impact. I mean, if it was even if it was non-conforming, like they were proposing it in a place that was, you know, overlapping that protective radius with a setback from a septic system on your property that was already there, that's still something that would go before the Board of Health and not us, because we're only dealing with jurisdictional areas and whether or not there's adverse impacts. So I'll make that comment, but I do want to recognize Gene, and also Deshang has had his hand up for a while.
Has this been approved? Does this well installation even get approved by the Board of Health?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
When does that happen?
After conservation. You can't put in a well without Board of Health approval, and they won't approve anything till we say, yeah, the location is kosher, you know, with regards to wetlands. And one thing that Neil said, just to emphasize, is that we have to look at something very specific, which is the adverse effect on the wetland. So, you know, if somebody wants to put a sign up, you know, like a stake in the ground with a sign on it in the buffer zone, it's hard for us to deny something like that, because that we would, you know, somebody would have to say that has an adverse effect on the wetland that's, you know, 75 feet away. It's really hard to say that that would have an adverse impact. So, you know, we're looking at what disturbance the well installation causes. Is it a permanent disturbance? Like, how bad is it? So it's a really limited way that we are allowed to look at it, and any like grounds for denying something, it's like,
yeah, that's not, I mean, that's not our role. But let me, Jean, you had your hand up earlier, and I do want to get to Deshang, but before, hold on, sorry, Jean, one more, hold the thought for 1 second. It is 8:37, so we are well past, and I know that the other hearing is for the property, the 65, but I do want to be cognizant of time. We may have to continue this hearing, which is fine. But Jean, go ahead.
A couple of comments. I'm a little bit slow to have my thoughts gel this evening. I didn't have a comment earlier about the proposed well, and I feel now I do, that I would like to explore in greater depth having this one well for 55, possibly outside of our jurisdiction, you know, in up gradient. And secondly, I wanted to say to Brian that the commission does not, if somebody is replacing a cesspool with a modern septic system, it is an improvement, even if it is in our jurisdiction, and we permit those in the buffer zone all the time. So I don't know probably enough specifics of your situation to say that you absolutely cannot put a new septic system behind your house, but you should explore that further with one of us offline, I think.
Okay. Deshang, did you want to add anything?
You're muted.
He's
You're
muted.
I don't have that, but if you all remember, so Brian's plan showed a red buffer zone, which is assuming it is complying with the wetlands protection and the bylaw, which it requires 125 feet setback from that wetlands. So I just measured our plan, our radius intruded into his side about I think it's a 65 or 70 feet. So it's way within that 125-foot requirement. So I don't feel this well location will have any impact on his potential setback compliance area. And as just Jean and all the members know it, for existing residential house, if you have a failed cesspool or even septic systems, you upgrade it to a full function septic system in the same location or within the buffer zone is allowed. So you have many options to do that. So,
but Deshang, we can't, this isn't relevant to our permitting process right now.
I agree.
What we should be focusing on is what Jean has brought up about, you know, we're looking at this one well, and we're looking at the location, and we have to consider adverse impacts. And if you could focus on the other areas on the lot, on, you know, on the map, and say why those areas that are outside of jurisdiction are not suitable. And, you know, is there, like, I don't know, you got to tell us.
Yes, I like to address that. So with the plan.
Right, but before we do that, I am not the kind of commission chair that is going to just run willy-nilly with time. So my suggestion is as follows. We continue this hearing. We open up the 65, what the address, Farm Road. Thank you. we open up that hearing. If it's if the same piece of discussion is relevant, that's fine. Otherwise, we're going to have to continue this hearing into the next, to the next meeting time we've got.
So since the question is raised by the member, and I hope and I believe I have the right to address it since we have the plan here. So rather than
Actually,
wait-
no, it's a timing thing, and you will be given the opportunity to address it, but it may be not right now. So I'm not saying you can't speak. I'm just saying we're already over by almost 15 minutes.
Courtney and Jean, thank you for pointing out the limitations the commission has on this matter. I guess, sometimes when you're this close to it, it's hard to recognize that certain boards only have certain jurisdictional powers. So I appreciate the fact that you were pleasant and simply explained that to me. That helped me quite a bit. And I was not aware that this also would be in front of Board of Health. So thank you for showing that to me.
Sure.
Yeah, if I maybe like making two just quick, so it won't
Very
take
quickly,
like 2
please.
minutes to address it. So you
Sure.
can see we have another septic system here we tested already. If we draw 100, 150 foot circle on it, we will have to drill a well probably in this area. And for serving a house to like in almost 1,000 feet away in the front of it, that's very unreasonable. And that's all I can say. And secondly, as the member realized that and looking in the field, drilling this well is really not going to cause significant impact on the wetlands. By denying and asking another option to continue, I feel it's not reasonable in my opinion. So that's what I can comment on, but the members can contemplate what the facts and on the plan.
Okay. Thank you, Deshang. I
Comment about the hearing timing, Neil?
sure go ahead, Jean.
We have requested determination 133 Nason Hill, and I think that's for soil testing in the buffer zone, and it's presented by, I hope I'm not confusing it with 5 Linden. One of the two RDAs is being presented by.
133 is for a carport.
Okay, so both of them I think are going to be moved pretty quickly and pretty smoothly. I think it would be possible, if you wanted, to continue this hearing to sometime after 133, but before 5 Linden, or after 5 Linden, but before Whitney Farm.
I agree. I like that idea.
Well,
We can give it a try. I do have, I'd like to make more comments in this hearing, but not now.
okay, so I move that we continue this hearing until 9:15 this evening.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Jean?
Aye.
Neil, I, Michael,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. So Deshang, if you can stay around till 9:15,
Sure.
thank you. And then Mr. Moore, if you want to stay around as well, you can. Did we lose him? No, he's still there. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's open up the second hearing. Pardon me, let me switch my screens here so I can read my little thing. Sorry, hold on one second. Okay. Alrighty. Notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission Town of Sherborn is holding a virtual public hearing, Sherborn Town Hall, 19 Washington Street, Sherborn, Mass. At 8:30 p.m.-ish on the first day of July 2021. The hearing will be held pursuant to Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws, as amended, the Wetland Protection Act, and the Sherborn Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 17, to consider a proposal by Creative Land and Water Engineering, LLC, on behalf of Robert Murchison for the drilling of bedrock wells. Work will take place at 65 Farm Road, map 11, lot 60A. In Sherborn, Massachusetts. Work may be performed within the 100-foot buffer zone. This application is available for viewing at the Sherborn Conservation Office. All persons desiring to be heard will be given an opportunity to speak at this hearing. Okay. I guess, Shang, do you want to present where what's being proposed here?
Yes, good evening again. So, Dushan Wang, Creative Land and the Water Engineering. So this is a 65. Let's see if I can shrink a little bit so you can see. It's just next door. So this is the property line. So around it and at the frontage. So the proposed well locations, it's also the 3 wells. So 2 for the 2 houses. It's, again, conceptually, we draw it here, doesn't mean it's going to be final location. And then the 3rd well for preservation for anything in the back. So the wetland line again, so was reviewed by Joyce last week and the commission on the Saturday, and it resulted in a good amount of adjustment because of the complications as the farm pond and the pond is fenced by stock split fence around. You can see the claws and like a line. That's an existing fence line. The whole area is a meadow. It's regularly mowed, but not this year. I haven't seen they are mowing this year yet because of probably the sale, probably purchase condition. But it's all meadow around the pond. There's one tree here, one tree off there, and then there's some few trees along the outside of the 100-foot buffer zone along the driveway. So the whole area where the well is located, it's pretty much meadow except the 2 trees. So there will be no tree cutting to access those well location, which is even after the wetland is amended. So we still can arrange it to make it outside of the 50-foot, buffer zone. So for that said, I think I probably just can stop here that Joyce to confirm the wetland line, and we can discuss the location issue or other concerns.
So I did check these. I had 2 questions to Shang. Where you show, and I'm pointing at the screen and you can't see that, where you show point number C7A, my understanding was that we were taking and pulling that C7A right directly in front of C7 at the fence line and eliminating C7.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. You can
And
see they're almost in
Again,
straight
I
line.
don't think it changes anything. I'm just going, that's one of the, that's what my notes were. And lastly, and again, this doesn't affect anything, and I just saw the C24A. I just saw that now. That was my other comment. I didn't see it before. So those are my 2 comments on the wetland line. That's all. And they don't really change anything for what you're proposing.
That's correct. Yeah. So this maybe I misunderstood. So the connection, but it should have a very minimal impact on the setback, because you can see this C7 from C6. If you connect it, probably just a foot or so difference. So it's almost like a straight line. We can amend that, no problem. So the the C24A, it's here. It's about 4 feet from the old inn. Not if we connect the 23 and the 24, you can see they also just very minor. If you recall in the field too, they're almost getting close to the property line. So yeah, so this one we can amend it as a condition to eliminate C7.
No, and what I meant was that C7 connects perpendicular to the fence, so it doesn't.
Oh,
it comes right. Yes, right where your hand.
Oh, this is the stop.
Again, still doesn't make any difference, but that's
right. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember whether it's this one or this one. So it's probably this post. So
yep.
That almost perpendicular. I think we hand the flag on the post.
Other than that, you've addressed all the comments we had in the field.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So yeah.
Does that mean that C8 is correct or not? Or are we going from C7 all the way?
No, C8 was okay.
Okay, so it really does bump in like that.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we have to get that set because this wetland line is for who knows what project could be put forth. So we do need it to get corrected.
Yeah, it's okay. We will move it, whether we move in there or moving straight perpendicular. That's it. Yeah, because I know this is a surveyed post. I just probably when they connect it, so they probably either connect, when I tell them, they probably connect to that post rather than this post. So
Did we agree on C9A7 that it's outside of the tree crown? I thought the buffer, I mean, I'm not sure how precise this is, but I thought that we had corrected that the wetland line was actually a bit inside the crown of the tree.
Well, who knows how big that crown really is? I did measure the distance with C8 and C8N is the one I moved. And
it's 14 feet.
and it was 14 feet, and I did
Okay.
see that, and it was 14 feet.
Okay, fine. As long as the line is correct there. Okay,
Yeah, they're close. So yeah, this is just representative, not
that's
really.
fine. Just trying to make sure because this is important.
Yeah, sure, understand.
The, let's see.
If you don't mind me asking, Joyce, I'd just be curious. We didn't really get your feedback on 55, so I might as well ask you here, just sort of generally, what do you think about what's being proposed?
Well, I have also never seen a project that gets permitted with wells and no houses or septic to go along with it, but that's just the way they're doing it. So it's hard. That's why it was hard to say. Well, what do we have any comments if that we didn't know what else they were doing? That was my concern on the sidewalk. On 55, where they're putting the well, it was clear that they could install it without taking down trees right off the edge of the driveway. And if you put it in the middle of the woods, it might cause more buffer zone or tree damage than if it were off the edge of the driveway. Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
But in the end, there's no tree cutting at all, even on this project. Is that true?
Correct.
Yeah, no tree cut.
And there would be just full restoration around any of these wells.
Yeah, that will be just along the
And once again, the reason that the wells have to be in jurisdiction is because we have to comply with setbacks for
septics, yes.
septics.
Yeah, but I don't want to,
Septics aren't there.
I still don't want, I don't want that to be part of our logic.
I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
So, are we talking about septics that don't exist?
That's right.
Right.
See that?
And that's where I disagree, because they don't exist, just like it doesn't
Yeah.
exist at Brian Moore's house.
That
Right.
anybody applying the same condition then in that case. So because under the law, we are entitled to use the property as whatever the purpose in compliance with the Zoning and Wetlands Protection Act. So in any way.
And our local bylaw and our
Yes.
local regulations as well. No,
Yes.
Shang, I understand what you're saying, but anyway, I understand what you're saying. I would say this, which is, to me, as a commission, we try to find ways to minimize or eliminate impacts to jurisdictional areas. This is a bit of an interesting problem because we can't consider anything to do with setbacks for non-existent homes or non-existent wastewater systems of any kind. And so to me, it really comes down to, we always have this thing, well, it's better outside the buffer because any impact in the buffer has the potential to have an adverse impact on resource areas, which is the whole point of buffer zones. At the same time, we're sort of sitting here and saying, well, depending on where it is in the buffer and there's no tree cutting and they're going to restore it, is there a real, because if there was a real risk, we'd say, because there's no existing structures, there's no setbacks that need to be worried about now, which is the risk that you take by proposing just wells now. There's nothing to force them into any area on the property. If we were to take any incursion, like for example, if you were to propose this within the 50-foot, I'd say that's a no alteration zone. There's a presumption of adverse impact. Put it somewhere else, because that's the way our local regs work. These are, and this seems like a stupid question, but are any of these 3 wells at 65 within the 50-foot?
No,
Okay.
all outside of 50 foot. So
Okay.
we understand, we want to observe that requirements of bylaw
Yep.
100%. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm done saying that, but I will say this, which is, strictly speaking, there is always the potential for adverse impacts, even for work in the outer buffer zone.
but follow
So-
the same reason, your logic. If that's nothing proposed, how can you use that?
No, I don't know. Sorry, Deshang, don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm saying any work in the buffer zone has the potential. I'm not saying it does, but it's for up to us to determine in our discretion or, application of sound logic and reasoning, whether or not activity within a jurisdictional area would have an adverse impact. That's our baseline assessment. So I just mean the wells. I don't mean anything else.
Right, just the wells, and the
Yes.
commission have approved much more severe alteration. in
I
the
don't need
buffer zone.
honestly, I don't need a lesson in what we've already approved. I understand your,
Right, no, I know, that's what I mean, just applying the same equal rights.
I
for people.
understand.
I'm not the lessening, I'm just
I
plain
understand.
state the facts the commission have done. And and then
yes,
you can
and
condition how to prevent any adverse impact you can think of to require any erosion control, all that stuff. So I don't think that's unreasonable, but it's just a suspecting potential. That's a fair, I don't feel that's a fair assessment. If I cannot
Right,
use
and
the
again,
house as a potential requirement.
Deshang, please, let me just finish. I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying that this will. I'm just saying that that's the thing that we have to consider, and that's what we have to weigh. I'm not saying we've made a determination. I'm just pointing out the parameters of our consideration. That's all. So I see Mr. Moore's hand is raised. Is that from before, or are you trying to make a comment?
No, I was prepared to make just a light comment on this one. It's obvious we're like a little further away from this, but if this is the time to comment, I will comment.
Sure.
So the 65 parcel is actually 2 separate lots in the historic county records. And the smaller lot on this image that Deshang has up, which is on the right side where that little pond is, there's some very specific wording in the deed as to the use of this parcel or the benefit of the use of the other parcel. And I'm not exactly sure whether the Concom obviously is the arbitrator of interpreting what that means, but the Concom should be aware that that's in the county records for that particular parcel, that when it was sold, it was set aside for the benefit of 65 in its state as being part of being sold with 65. So I don't know if the commission has looked at that. I don't know if they have the power to look at that, but I do know that that's in the county records. And I found that very interesting because I don't really know whether this use would be considered consistent with something that's to the benefit of or not. And I don't know if you guys are the arbitrator of that, but I thought I would just bring it to your attention. That's all.
That's interesting. And this is so extremely convoluted, but I don't believe that that's anything that we can evaluate.
I think I agree.
Yeah, and I'm actually stumped as to what avenue you would even take for that.
I'm going to raise a different issue of Deshang. Is there anything about how you're going to manage the buffer zone, that field going forward? Whether you've thought about whether in terms of how you're putting some stuff in the buffer zone, but what is your management plan for that buffer zone? And whether something we can agree on.
So right now, so this the wetland line was kind of moved up to where the area is. as far as the buffer zone go, I don't have a solid plan at this point because we are not, we definitely have to coming back with after we know exactly where the house is located. Probably at that time we can discuss either restoration and this project is not going to stop here. So it probably will be more in holistic view of the whole things needed. So I don't have a concrete or specific plan regarding that aspect at this point.
Okay. I move that we continue this hearing to 9:45 tonight.
Second.
Any discussion? DeShane, can you stay till 9:45 to pick this back up?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. All right. All right. All those in favor, Jean,
Aye.
Neil, I, Michael,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. All right. We need to take up 133 Nason Hill Road. Oh, boy. Let's dig that one up. This is an RDA, correct?
Right.
I don't know if the homeowner is on for this.
Doesn't look like it.
Michael, could you share the pictures that are up for this one?
Sure.
So they had filed an administrative approval request to build two additions, two entryways on the front of the house that are outside the 100-foot buffer zone, and a carport at the rear, which was in the buffer zone, probably up to 60, 65 feet away from the edge of the wetlands. So I separated their projects and said that I approved the two front ones with an administrative approval and asked that they file a request for determination of applicability to put a carport on the back of the house. So if you look at the second picture, you can see where the siding is off the back of the house. That's kind of where the carport's going to go. It'll cover that's paved area right there. That's bituminous pavement. So it's within the bituminous pavement. It doesn't reach the edge of the lawn. And then it extends a little bit longer to capture the doorway that's at the back of the house. So there'll be footings that would be dug, but again, they'll be within the pavement area. And then you can see there's a strip of about 50 feet or so of lawn before it drops down the hill to the wetlands. So all access will be from the driveway. All work is going to be in the existing pavement. It really seems like a straightforward project, but it couldn't be done with an AA.
This is going to be, cars are going to be parked here.
Well, probably that orange tractor that you see is what will be parked there.
Uh-huh.
I thought they said that they have a vehicle, some kind of SUV that's too big to park in their garage, and that's why they're putting. That's what I read in the
I
application.
saw that narrative too, and that may be when I was on the site. It was explained to me that this vehicle would go there, but so it's for something that's going to get parked outside, whether it's a car or this, I don't know.
Is there something that you can recommend for mitigating the likelihood that, petroleum products might be dripping from anything parked, even though it's already existing? But
yeah, so they're already parked outside anyway. I don't know that I saw any cars in the garage, but anything that falls off the vehicles, at least it's already on existing impervious surface. I mean, existing pavement. So it's not like it's going to drip off the edge.
not going to make its way to the lawn area.
No.
Okay.
Right. And if you have a roof over it, it's
Right.
water be less likely to wash it off.
Is there any concern about there being a roof and the sheeting or water coming off the roof in a rainstorm or whatever, and then dripping down. I know you said it would drip down onto the asphalt, but
Yeah, I
is
don't.
there any kind of concern about erosion there, or any concern at all about that kind of water sheeting off of a roof?
Because the lawn is so flat, even anything that came off the roof is going to land on the pavement first, so that it wouldn't be splashing or creating mud as you would. But then there's this long flat area of lawn, so nothing could get to the edge. If anything, it's going to collect around the pavement itself.
Plus, it's already doing that now, has the same
Yeah.
issue now.
Right.
So
It's
there's no
already
change.
impermeable. Yeah.
So there's no change.
No.
So the only conditions you're suggesting here is the concept is erosion control, access, and the,
Nothing in the 100-foot.
right, no work, washing kind of stuff.
Well, there, I know it's going to be minimal, but there will be some excavated material, so that should be taken off site.
Right.
I would also like to suggest demarcation at the edge of the lawn.
Two signs. So
Yes, yeah, two or three. I don't know how long the area is back there. It was hard to tell.
Well, it can go at the edge of the lawn. I mean, at the edge of that's like the top of the drop off. And if I've lost my mind. If
Gotta find a map.
oh, there is one. If you look at the plan, that plan set. There's a, keep going. If you scroll down,
Okay.
Oh.
so that's just a conceptual. The surveyor, I think, drew that from GIS maps. It's not a flagged wetland. So I did walk down and kind of see where things were, and the wetland is, it's about 65 feet away. It might be a little bit more than that.
So this is roughly the 50 foot.
Yeah. That's
No
what-
alteration there. I'm trying to figure out what makes sense for any kind of,
I think 3 signs makes the most sense to me if I'm eyeballing it right now, but
but where are these signs going?
But if you go back to the pictures, you can see at the edge of the
right, I did see that. Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm suggesting. The edge of the lawn where it starts to grow up, it looks like it starts to grow up into a buffer area.
right. So
You got in the third picture. Or
a
this
little bit,
area
you can
here.
see it a little bit.
You can
Yeah.
kind of see it in that first one, yeah.
So you want 3 signs?
Yeah, 3 signs evenly spaced along, along the lawn edge where the buffer starts.
So if I reworded the conditions so that we can keep it to 3, I'm going to remove access from the existing driveway because that's kind of obvious. And I'll add 3 signs, and I'm going to revise 3 to say, and all material to be removed from the 100-foot buffer zone.
All right, you can combine one because we've
That's
done
I'll
4.
combine 3.
Sounds good.
I
Move to
move that
approve.
we-
Move to approve with the conditions discussed as a -3.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none.
Mhm.
All those in favor, Jean, aye.
Michael, I.
Cindy, I.
This is a different way.
Well, you didn't vote. You were just supposed to vote.
I was. Neil, I.
Aye.
All right,
Motion passes.
fantastic. Okay, wonderful.
4 minutes.
We do.
You can do the warrant, Neil.
Wow.
Oh, thank you.
That's what saved us from awkward silence.
There's no silence is awkward
I'm
anymore.
enjoying the sound of the rain.
Oh, look, somebody did that. Wow, that's fantastic.
Ooh.
Okay, so, hey.
Some pages failed to load.
Some pages failed to be legible. All right. Getting a magnifying glass for this.
This is the end of our money in the fiscal year
Can
21.
somebody make this a little bigger? Do I need to read this or can people just read it?
We're reading it.
Great.
FBL is the kiosk.
Okay.
If for some reason we exceed our budget, I guess that's something we might have to take out of the trust fund.
Somebody else can deal with Kelly on that.
Okay. I don't think we've gone back and forth whether we actually approve these or just sort of Neil signs them and he's just.
Just look at them.
All right.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
That's it. Elizabeth, also, can I, while we're just sort of waiting, I just wanted to add something to our next agenda. So Elizabeth, can you add just commission interactions with town residents as a discussion item? Elizabeth?
Sorry, yep.
Thank you. All right, well, I think, look, I mean, people have stepped away for a second, so we'll just wait a minute for people to come back, but then I think we can just pick up.
Any other side issues in a minute?
I don't think so.
I think it's 9:15.
Not quite.
Any second now. Almost there.
Stay on target.
Exactly.
There we go. There we go. Great. All right. So we are reopening the hearing into 55 Farm Road. So when last we spoke, where were we? We were talking about its location. So it's at the corner, it's sort of near the driveway. It's not inside the 50-foot. Is that correct?
It's right on the line.
What's the well, is it in or not?
It's the way it's depicted on the plan. It's just exactly off the line. I mean, it's in the 100-foot, just off the line.
It's at 51 feet.
Right. Thank you.
And is it 51 feet because it has to be, what was it, off the driveway?
20, it has to be 20 feet.
20 feet off the driveway. And did you, sorry, I was not on the site walk, so there's a lot of sort of back and forth on the wetland flags. Are the flags that are along there, you confirm those flags that are especially in that area?
I did.
Okay.
Right, we're approving, are we approving the entire, if we permit this, we're essentially approving all of the wetland stuff, all the way to the northern part of the property
For number 55.
for 55. Just want to make sure we feel comfortable doing that. Joyce, I think I got the impression from the site walk that Joyce had walked the whole thing and corrected it. It's reflected on here. And that that would be part of approving the whole thing. And I guess as a standalone project, given that it's 20 feet off the driveway, right, I guess I'd have a hard time saying that it cause a significant adverse impact just doing that well. And I'm not sure that given, since it's a small, I mean, obviously we'd have to have them restore. One of the conditions would be to restore all the, to possibly have to do some revegetating around the, I guess, Deshang, do you need any other access, or will you be willing to revegetate the access and anything that's disturbed?
To all the wells, there's probably will be, I don't picture it's need like any impervious roadways as a residential, it's probably it will be, but probably going to be maintained some kind of a radius around the well. So not going to be, I mean, few feet, to be mowed around it, just to be like in anybody's well, you would like to, in case you need to pull out the pumps and the maintenance. So for that purpose.
What do you mean? Why do you need anything?
I don't believe you need to create any kind of a buffer around it. My well is in dense forest. It's been repaired twice. It's just people walking in and having access to the wellhead itself. But before we get just any further, I'm not, I don't have the background to discuss this. I'm just always wondering about approving a well in the buffer zone when it could potentially be outside of the buffer zone entirely, because doesn't it, being in the buffer zone, have an impact on the hydrology of the nearby wetland? And if you wouldn't mind, please, Deshang, going through your reasons again for why it could not be put up higher behind the existing house.
Okay, so let me share again.
And I wish somebody could answer the hydrology impact question someday.
Share screen.
I don't think there's an answer. What we learned from other work is that these are bedrock wells, and it's only a matter of what fractures might exist and whether you have no idea where the linkages are between any overburdened groundwater, which is what the wetlands are, to any bedrock.
Okay, but there is a lot of unknowns, but there is a potential risk to the hydrology of the wetland. So that's why I say, why not fully explore putting it outside of our jurisdiction entirely?
I will probably, I don't want to make the applicant's case, but I would say that the proximity to the wetland doesn't necessarily mean that there's any greater chance that there are fractures.
I don't know that, I think that's taking the fracture thing too far. My suggestion would be only that in order to determine whether or not there is any connectivity with the overburden and therefore the wetlands that are in the area, you have to study it, because it's an unknown, right? It could be, or as to Michael's point, it might not be. And
an issue even outside the wetland.
Right, but that aside, let me just sort of finish my point, which is just that in order to find out whether or not that impact could happen, you'd need a qualified hydrologist, and if we want to go through that process for this particular project, that's something we could do. We could hire a third-party consultant, just like we would with a project like Coolidge Crossing. I don't know that there's an appetite to do that on the commission, or whether we think it's necessary, but that would be the way that you would determine, more definitively, not definitively, but more definitively than not knowing at all, whether or not there could be such a hydrological connection.
Brian, did you
Well-
want to make a comment about this?
I just want to add one little quick thing from our experience. To
Mhm.
Shang, whether you would you consider putting in one, what they call it, spike? Or I forgot what we called it when we did it at 30 on Hunting Lane. Would you consider doing one little monitoring well in the wetland while you're doing any water pumping testing?
Yeah, there's not, a piezometer kind of a thing, so
Yeah,
I
that's
guess-
it.
Yeah,
So
that's,
we would consider doing that during
Yeah.
the testing so that we can get a baseline and then some readings
It's not a bad
during.
idea.
yeah, that's not a problem. So you don't want to use a machine. It's probably just a little geoprobe kind of
Right.
thing to get into the wetlands, and then so to adapt that so things is overburdened. So I don't know you have any specific. So for as long as you can get into the regular water table, not just high water table, you can see water all the time. In the challenge, I think it may be is at this point I don't know how deep. In the springtime, it's definitely the water can be in the surface, but during time, if we are going to drill it, that geoprobe probably have to be deeper into the wetlands. So you are going to incur, even a geoprobe, you require some kind of machinery to install it to deep, unless you agree to
I
hand
think-
dug.
We had it done by manually in the other project, and then it also brings up the issue that I forgot to come up earlier was if you're going to do water testing, what's the plan for where the water's all going, the dewatering, all that kind of stuff there. We forgot that there's no proposal on either one of these for what is the procedure for actually doing the water testing, which is what we've had in other settings. So that's a gap, I think.
We hadn't
But-
gotten that far because we also have to talk about the tailings and everything else that's associated.
Right, that whole all of that stuff is missing.
If you were going to get to permitting that.
So before we get a little further, I think Brian did have a comment from Brian, from Mr. Moore.
Thanks. I just glad I got to raise my hand again. No, this comment was just in general. I appreciate the fact that you guys listen to us talk about our SAS issue. I think, these projects, I've gone through a bunch of development projects, not residential, but commercial, and things change all the time. And I'm aware that, if a project changes course in the middle of its development process for financial reasons, that has to take place. But it could affect things as if maybe someone is no longer looking at a well as being for a single residential usage. Maybe it's now going to be part of a well field that's going to be treated as a public water supply. Does that change the context of this conversation that we're having tonight? I know that when you approve these, you approve them really as a function of what is going on within your jurisdiction, not at the ultimate use. And what I'm saying is that if someone were appearing in front of you with a PWS issue as opposed to a private water supply for a dwelling, does that change your jurisdictional powers in this instance, or is that still a Board of Health thing?
Well, the application before us for number 55 Farm Road reads that it's looking for permission to drill a bedrock drinking water well within 100 feet of a wetland for a single family residence. So if they get an order of conditions from us allowing this well, that's how it's going to be described. That's going to
Right.
be what is approved.
Thank you.
Right.
That offers a lot of clarity. I appreciate that.
And I think that, because I was just thinking about the same thing when you're talking, Brian, is that, right, because it's decoupled from any actual development proposal, we can make it a condition that it is, I mean, I don't know if that's implicit in the application stating that it's a single family well, but I think we can make it, and if it is, fine, but certainly if it was converted into any other, as part of a well field for a public water supply or anything like that, it would have to come back before us.
Yeah, and again, we're not trying to, quash his ability to develop. It's just that the protective
Understood.
radius and protections for a public water supply well are entirely different than the jurisdiction of the Board of Health locally with a 150-foot radius. So I appreciate your sensitivity to our issues, and I really appreciate your patience tonight with us on Zoom. Thank you for letting us weigh in.
Of course, happy to have you. Joyce, question for you. When you're doing a well that's a single family bedrock well, you know, like when you have a public water supply, you obviously have like these drawdown tests and all this kind of thing, which is certainly not going to happen here. I mean, I'm assuming there's some kind of pumping that they do in the beginning. And I guess what I'm wondering is how do we condition this? How do we condition this to deal with the fact that it is a single family bedrock well?
So I think that, Deshang, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think if they have to be pumping and drawing water out of it, it can be discharged outside the 100-foot buffer zone into the front yard area.
Yes.
Over by where SAS 1 is, down below, between that and the street. And
That's
then
correct.
that would trap any, it would give everything a chance to settle. The soil seemed to be fairly well draining over there. And they could put it within a ring of whatever outside, however they want to do it, whether they ring it with erosion control into like a little discharge area and give it a chance to infiltrate into the ground. But also any materials that they dig out will have to be removed from site or the buffer zone.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, that's it. So we're definitely, so just from a practical perspective, so this area is going to be restored in a nice, vegetated, and not going to be like in trash. So this is going to be, it's in Sherborn, and if people build a house and they need to use it, so that area is not going to be mess. So when you can put a condition, but I just I talked
Sure.
to Bob. He's not going to just leave it in a mess. So
Of course. Cindy had her hand up, and then Jean, and then we'll go back to Brian. Cindy?
Well, an earlier question that I asked still hasn't been addressed, which
Oh.
was to fully.
That was
To fully-
actually going to be my question, is when were we going to answer Jean's question? Because I have a follow-on question to Jean's question.
All right, Jean, do you want to restate your question?
Yeah, can we fully explore why it's unsuitable to put the well outside of our jurisdiction uphill from the house, the existing house?
yeah, I would like to, since there was the chair is monitoring the questions and the answer and the discussions, I would let that process fully go, and until we feel this is the one we would like to go a little bit deep. Right. So as far as you can see, so this is a wetland, and so this is the existing system line. It's not even proposed a septic system. We didn't even draw any setbacks from our potential leaching field. But if you remember, we have an RDA for the soil testing for the septic systems by the commission, which approved for exploring that. And and also we have filed and have a record with the Board of Health. We did do 5 soil testing over here. If we draw a line of 150-foot line, I can show you how far that will go. So from the distance to 150 feet, you can see actually 175 to away. So that's about, so that will, if eliminating this side. So the only thing you will be able to do it is like in the one we walked down the property line, the slope clipping out, and it's the same thing. We won't be able to put a house here for a driveway going through all this woods, right? So if you just put the well, as I'm not saying you have to accept my words, and that's all intention. And for all the construction costs and feasibility, this is going to be very close to where the house is going to be. So if you put the house here and you are going to put a well, if you are the owner, you want to put the well here, and then you have to cut all the woods to get into that well. So, I mean, that's just not I can think of. So that's my kind of, that's all I can tell you. As
Yeah,
far as,
the woods that you're talking about temporarily altering are outside of our jurisdiction.
But you're talking about the well have to run a line excavation, and for that impact for like you have to run almost like 1,000 feet line to that location, and that's basically it's I just tell you the data and you can make the decision. I don't want to use any judgmental word, but just for if I'm the owner of that homeowner to buy the house and if I find out my wells so far there for maintenance, for anything, you walk through the terrain, you know how hard it's going there. So I'm not saying you can't, for a drill rig going that far, I'm not sure if that's even feasible. We haven't, so for the future. After the lot is subdivided, you don't own any easy access. So,
Okay. Cindy, did you have a follow-on question to that?
Sorry, yes, I do. My follow-on question is, while we're exploring other locations, I don't understand why we're not looking at the location. It's outside of all these red circles I'm
Setbacks.
seeing, and it's south of SAS1 and west of SAS2. There's that whole area in there. I mean, SAS2 doesn't exist, nor does SAS1. So what's wrong with using that whole area in there as a well?
if you put the well here,
Mhm.
the people have a set. So this is a septic system.
But there's no septic system that exists there.
No, I understand, Cindy, but we get to be practical. This is the soil testing we already tested and only can pass the Title V so requirements for the town. That area was we applied with the RDA, and we also have application and the testing plan with Border Health, which that's already in. It's not suspected or not imaginary. So you can see all the test pit locations marked there. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. I see Courtney with her hand up, Brian with his hand up. I've got an RDA at 9:30 for 5 Linden.
Right.
So
I would be extremely quick. I promise.
all right, I'm gonna allow us a little bit of latitude here to run a few minutes over. So Brian, go ahead, and then we'll go to Courtney if hers is short as well. Otherwise, we'll have to continue.
My point couldn't be any simpler. We have a map here showing uninstalled septic systems as being a reason not to install a well somewhere. And I showed you earlier a map with an uninstalled septic system as being a reason not to install the well where he wants to install it. So the parties should be treated equally under your jurisdiction in this case. So whatever you say to me about an uninstalled septic system, you should say to him about his uninstalled septic system. That's all I got.
Okay, Courtney.
So I hate to be a Debbie Downer because I've had to do that so many times already today, but I don't think installing a well in the outer buffer zone is a huge thing. I don't think we have a strong case to deny that. Just given it's a pretty minimal disturbance. And we've allowed lots of other things in buffer zones, new construction. I mean, I just really struggle with this. We've never looked at a drinking water well unless it was something big like a public water supply for affecting, the wetland, like a single family home. We've never done that before. I don't want to put the commission in a position where this is appealable. We've put swimming pools in the buffer zones. I just don't see how a well, like we can deny a well. I don't know how I can argue definitively.
Yeah, it's just, I understand what you're trying to say to Courtney, but it's just because of all these intangibles that this is a difficult decision for me.
Right.
I get that, but I almost feel like we can't even take all that into account, because like even
look, let me sort of jump in here because I do want to steer us time-wise toward our next hearing or agenda item. This is what I would say, which is I agree with Courtney to the degree that I would say that on its own, I could not come up with a reason why this is going to have a significant adverse impact on resource area, which is really the criteria we have to use. We have often talked at the commission level about it's always better to be outside the buffer than inside the buffer. But that's not the criteria, I don't think, that we can use for this kind of stuff, which is, I mean, because, right, if you were to take this site plan and wipe every proposed potential building off of it, what you have is a lot of places a well could go that are outside the buffer zone. But if it was inside the 50, you'd say, get it out, because we have a presumption of adverse impact. It's not inside the 50, it's close, but it's not. And so we don't have that presumption in our regulations. And so unless somebody can, I really have not heard anybody make the argument that this is going to have an adverse impact on a resource area. And so I as much as I would like it to go further out, as much as I'm sensitive to the neighbors and their potential situation, I do think that in terms of what criteria we have to use to assess this, that's where we are, which is wipe all this stuff away. It's outside the 50. There's a rationale for it. And even though it's outside our jurisdiction, I don't relish running 1,000 feet through a wooded area to put a well outside our jurisdiction. I mean, that may be technically less impactful in terms of our jurisdiction, but in terms of natural resources, which are also a concern, I don't know that I don't know that it's less impactful, I guess. Anyway. So here's my question. We're sort of, unless somebody were to say to me, I think that there's some grounds, or I want to research some grounds for saying we should ask that it be moved outside the jurisdiction because there's areas to put it. I think we either, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to condition it right now. I don't know if we need to continue it anyway, so that we can, take it up at the next meeting and put it to bed one way or the other. But I think that's where we are in terms of what we have to do.
I have a quick question. When you're digging a well, isn't there some kind of spoils that come out of the ground? I mean, isn't there some kind of dirt that they're going to place around the wellhead? Are there, do you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to be digging a well.
Well,
I have to imagine that they're going to encroach on that 50 beyond, I mean, they have 1 foot to work within before they hit the 50.
Well, they're going to put a drill rig in there. They're not, it's not,
I know, I just don't see how 1 foot gives them enough space to work in to then you hit the 50.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. To me, it's like we're looking for a reason to say it's inside the 50.
Okay, that's just my opinion.
Cynthia said we have 6 feet.
Shang,
so-
the commission is discussing right now.
Oh, sorry.
Just
Okay.
need to wait to be recognized.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So here's what I would say, because we're now about 10 minutes off of our next agenda item, which we need to take up because it's posted. Commission members, how do you feel about continuing this? I mean, I'd rather not continue this into late in the night. I'd rather, since it's probably not time sensitive, I'd rather continue it just to the next meeting that we have.
Ask them if it's time sensitive. If it is, I would rather just try to finish it up tonight.
I know, I understand that. Yes, Joyce.
So we still have to work out conditions and that.
Exactly.
So, and normally you would wait and you wouldn't even sign it till the next meeting. So if we prepare the notice of intent and circulate a draft order for them to review before the next meeting, that gives you an opportunity to work things out rather than cramming it in tonight.
Right, and we used to get in this habit of, we'd go until 11:30 at night working out conditions for reasons that have never made any sense to me.
And we're all getting older.
Well, so I would just ask the applicant, and it may not make a difference in my mind, but it doesn't see, since you don't have any buildings or anything else, is this a time sensitive thing? Shang, you're muted.
Yeah. What is the next hearing? So I think what Joyce suggested, I don't I don't think it will be that much difference if she or the commission can prepare a condition in the meantime.
Well, that's an important piece of this.
Yeah.
Is there somebody, and I'm not automatically asking Joyce to prepare the conditions.
No, I can put those together. But then we would circulate it to have people add their thoughts to it.
Okay. Elizabeth, do we have room on our July 15th meeting?
We do. We could do 9:45.
Okay.
Nice and
So,
early.
right, Shang, so would you be okay with 2 weeks from now at 9:45?
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. And
Okay.
obviously, I'm just trying to speak for the applicants. So I want to make sure that even though he couldn't attend it. So just as we clearly stated out in our application. So there's no potential as the neighbors concerned, we're going to turn into well field for public water supply. It's specifically spelled it out as a bedrock single family house. So it's going to be used for that way. And so otherwise we will not do that. Okay, so if we put in the application, that's what we'll stay on. And as far as, so the rest of it, the commission can put the conditions deems necessary and reasonable for preventing any impact. That's our goal too. We don't want to impact any resources
Great. Michael, you had a final comment?
Yeah, that we're going to need more information, a revised plan that shows how are you going to do the water testing in terms of where the water's going to go,
we'll put
the
water
sock or whatever you want to do there, where the spoils are going to go. You need to give us some construction or sort of installation and water testing sort of protocol that you're going to follow, including dealing with the spoilings that we can comment on. And the sooner you give that, the better, rather than us having to draft.
And please don't wait until like at the last minute before the next meeting.
I would say give it in the next few days if you can, so that we can
we need it
that
at least we would need it at least a week in advance. The other thing I would say is, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. Never mind. So is there anything else that we need to add in here for right now?
And if we think of something new, we can do it at the next hearing on 65.
Yeah. All right, I move that we continue this hearing to 9:45 on the 15th of July.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Jean?
Aye.
Neil, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Courtney?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. We continued 65 Farm Road to now, but we have this other thing we have to do first.
Technically, you're supposed to recontinue 65.
Exactly. That's what I'm just sort of thinking where would we stick that?
10 o'clock.
What's that?
Do it at 10 o'clock.
We have a hearing at 10 o'clock.
We have a hearing at 10 o'clock.
Okay, then 10:15.
Are we going to get through Whitney Farm in 15 minutes? We goddamn better.
Yes, there's only a few comments there. Watch yourself.
That's going to end up in the minutes.
It is. Just abbreviated as GD. All right. Now,
we could do it to 10:10, and if it goes a little long, then it goes a little long.
All right. So
around.
I am reopening the hearing into 65 Farm Road and I move that we continue it to 10:15 this evening.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I would say do it to 10:10 because I don't think we're going to have much with the other one.
It's already done.
10.
10:15. Second.
We got a second. I take the friendly amendment to 10:10. Any other discussion?
Second, the friendly amendment.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Jean?
Aye.
Neil, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Courtney?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Boom. All right.
When we get
Well,
to 10:10 and we're still on Whitney Farm, I'm going to make note of it.
You need to say, I told you so, Michael.
What do you mean? So what? At least we
All
can
right.
always delay it.
time's a wasting. 5 Linden Lane. What's happening with that?
Is Dan McIntyre here?
Yes, Dan
Wow.
McIntyre representing
He's
the
stuck in
homeowners.
the back door.
I let him in.
Dan, you're relentless, but very good.
Pleasantly relentless. How's that? Go ahead, Dan.
So this is We were retained by the homeowners to replace their failed cesspools in anticipation of a home sale. We walked the site, and there's definitely a wetland in the back on the abutting property, just past the stone wall. So we're going to be testing within the 100-foot buffer zone. We're proposing to do it outside in the 50 to 100-foot because we want to maintain that 50-foot offset to wetlands for the septic system anyways. So the access is going to be down the main driveway, which is Linden Lane is their driveway, and into the backyard, which is all a lawn area now. I have a picture of the area if you'd like to see that, or there's some pictures there too. Okay.
How is it that they have two cesspools?
That's not uncommon. One fails and they'll dig an overflow cesspool.
Uh-huh.
Over the years. Things just happen like that.
Here's the backyard.
Yep. So you'll see a stone wall toward the back area. The wetlands are just past that. Over in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see some reeds growing up. It's very wet over there. So we're proposing to dig up in this kind of in the dirt area and the lawn area for the new septic.
Joyce, are you with us? Did you have a look at this?
Yes, it's exactly as he describes it, and I think it's all an existing lawn. The testing will be. I think it's fine.
Uh-huh. Conditions?
The similar restore upon completion, and that's it, really.
I would like to add demarcation,
Yeah,
either
but
on the,
you're gonna get that when they come to with a more information for the design.
oh,
Yeah, we'll be
This-
back
this
with
well
the.
all right.
Yeah, I think generally for soil testing, we tend not to do
Sure,
that.
no,
Yeah,
right.
They'll be
Yep.
back. They'll be back before us. So
Yep, got it.
I move
Okay.
that we approve this.
what's that?
I move that we approve this.
Approve what? What are you -3?
Yeah, Michael, you gotta do the whole thing.
Okay, and
You gotta up your game.
with the conditions we just discussed about, do we need erosion control? Actually, I can't remember.
No erosion control.
All right.
So, access, yeah, so there's really no conditions really, other
Just
than,
restoring,
Restore.
stabilizing.
Okay.
thank you for
So
that.
I'd also like to suggest we approve it as a -3.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion that has a few friendly amendments thrown in there. So we're moving that we approve this with the conditions discussed as a -3.
Second,
Second.
Thank you.
I was like,
Just recapping, I'd like to hear that a second time. Do I have do I have a third second? Any other discussion?
Oh, God.
That's not discussion. All those in favor, Jean?
Hi.
Neil, aye. Michael?
aye,
Courtney?
Oh,
hi.
Cindy?
Bye.
Take that. All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Of course. Have a good night, Dan.
Dan.
You too.
You've escaped unscathed. Yes, Joyce.
You have 10 minutes. Can I ask a question related to this particular site?
Yeah.
As an example, it seems to me that asking people to do a request for determination of applicability to do soil testing for a septic system upgrade is a delay. It's a big delay because there's nothing you're going to ask them to do that really requires a request for determination if it's entirely within the existing line. And it's the absolutely
regulatory basis. It's in jurisdiction. What's the regulatory basis under the state law that would allow
well,
us?
we call it soil exploration, and that's an exempt activity. So
Under the state.
under the state, it's an exempt activity, and for Sherborn, which has so many rules that just prolong the approval process, and I'm strictly talking about septic system, upgrading a failed septic system. And then this is just for my observation from both sides of this. You know, so in order for them to get approval from the Board of Health, which they can't do until it goes through conservation, depending on where they fall on this testing scheme, it could delay it 3 to 4 weeks.
Well,
2 weeks.
I hear you, Joyce. I think this is good thinking, but I think we can't do anything differently unless somebody comes up with, you know, language for our regulations that's very specific about this. You know, the section of our regs that talks about replacement septic systems in the outer buffer, how specific that is, that makes it easy for us to say, okay, just an RDA, no problem.
Right.
So if you want to do something similar, and I'm not saying you have to do it, but I think it's a great idea. Who has time?
Right. For soil testing, I think that would be very helpful. That's all.
I have time. I'd be happy to draft something for you.
Okay. Sure, no, we would just,
We
we
would be
welcome
fine
you.
with that.
Word of the
Okay.
law, we're
Well,
definitely
look, right now, under the RDA is section 7331, which talks about replacement septic systems outside the no alteration. That's for actually putting the system in, under an RDA. So Joyce, are you suggesting that maybe we could do something like, you know, where it's not, if it doesn't even require an RDA, that's more like a,
Administrative approval.
administrative. Yeah.
Administrative approval just for the soil testing,
Yeah.
not for the septic installation, for the soil testing.
right, exactly. So we'd even pull it out of the RDA and put it in as an AA. I mean, I think if we got the right conditions in place,
Yeah.
you know, existing lawn, outer buffer, soil testing only,
No steep
No.
slope.
yeah, right, certain grade, absolutely. Yeah, I think we could do it.
I think, yeah, I agree. I like the idea.
Dan, do you want to be an associate member?
I don't have time for that, but
Well, look, often in the government, lobbyists write legislation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
I
mean,
can
Well,
draft
and
something-
also,
I can
I mean-
draft something and send it to Joyce and
sounds
she
like-
can
yeah,
take a
sounds like
look at it.
something-
if you're
Sounds like
game,
something
Dan,
we
if
could
you're,
You for real, Dan? Because we would take you up on that.
It
No,
sounds like
I'm
something we could
serious
run
because
with,
Joyce makes an excellent point.
but we'd have
it
to have a
does-
hearing.
Take a lot
Yes,
of
we would.
time to go
So,
through this.
let's do this. Dan, if you're really game, draft something, send it to Joyce. We will hold a hearing
Yeah.
when we have some time and we'll take it up. Happy to do it.
All right, thank you.
No, thank you.
Well,
Okay,
you haven't
Neil,
seen what I'm
Free
going
work.
right yet.
Free work.
Neil, we have to we have to open up the 65. We continued that to 9:45.
Oh,
No, we.
No, I already,
reconvened it.
that's what I moved.
yeah.
No, you moved 55, I thought.
No?
No.
Oh, right, we do that.
Try this next
Okay.
time.
Oh my
Good.
God.
Right, okay, I got confused.
We,
Oh, good.
our brains expired around 9:30. I don't know.
What else do we have on our list?
I don't know is there anything else that's
I can do a
not-
really quick update on the stormwater workshop
yeah.
we went to.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Site issue, go.
Oh, no, it's actually on the agenda.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, so there's a workshop at the DPW garage last Friday. It was presented by a consultant his name was Sean Maxwell. Short presentation, very informative for people who had never heard anything about stormwater, but for me, it was a good refresher. But the biggest takeaway is, you know, he was trying to make sure that all the relevant boards and committees in Sherborn, meaning the Board of Health, the police, the fire department, the DPW, the Conservation Commission, knows how to recognize an illicit discharge. And, you know, it sounds like a no-brainer, but do you know an illicit discharge when you see one? You probably don't. And
I might.
so he went through some examples, and I have the PowerPoint. I got it from him if anybody wants it.
I
It's
want
really
it. I
cool.
want it.
Okay, it's really exciting. No, the biggest takeaway though for us is that, you know, we're not enforcers of the stormwater bylaw. The only people who truly can enforce it or are designated enforcers are the DPW and police. But what he was saying to us and the planning board and others is that, you know, you can potentially come across illicit discharge, which is a fancy way of saying pollution, while we're delineating wetlands, while we're looking at wetlands, and that there's now a mechanism in place for reporting that to the DPW. And I mean, that's the plan. They're going to establish a database and keep track of all of this all over Sherborn, which is something that we are actually obliged to do under the EPA to monitor MS4s, which I can't remember what it stands for, but so the point that, you know, the thing that I appreciated the most from this was that all these folks that have something to do with pollution in town, who never really communicate very well, we're all there and we all heard the same message, and, you know, it could be good if we all collaborate. So I'll send anybody the PowerPoint if you want it.
Yes, there's good practical stuff like how to tell a petroleum sheen from a natural nature's sort of sheen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You stir it up a little. You stir it up a little. If it sticks together, then it's probably a petrochemical one. And if it breaks up, then it's probably nature's little oils.
The distinction also between foam. You know how you always see foam in churning
water? Oh yeah,
water?
right. That's a good one.
The distinction between what's caused by natural causes and what's caused by human causes, and the human causes are the ones that you have to worry about. And the simple, easiest distinction is the natural causes one, which sometimes smells like rotten eggs, is not to be a concern. But the ones, and those are beige colored and tan, and the ones that are white that smell more like laundry detergent, those are a concern.
And it's how they break up too. They're more solid than natural.
Yeah.
They're okay. So yes, there's good little stuff there.
That's that.
Oh man, I missed it.
You missed the sandwiches.
Dude, I didn't even know there were sandwiches. I would have come just for the illicit discharges. I'm not exaggerating.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else we can cover in 2 minutes?
I have nothing.
What about the violations?
No violation stories.
Oh, okay, so we covered that topic. So we
Well,
still have mosquito control from Cindy.
Well, I did receive a brochure in the mail.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
It was that townwide mailing I've heard so much about.
Yes. I was
Good
like,
work,
very
Cindy.
educational. We can all avoid violations. I was like, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Plus.
My husband picked up the mail. He said, we have something from the Conservation Commission.
Geez, I didn't get my mail today. I gotta go look.
Great. All right, why don't we jump into Whitney Farm? It's going to be 10 o'clock by the time I'm done talking. All right, where do things stand? I know there was a last minute exchange where there were some modifications made. So where are we with it?
It looks to me like
Like this is what we got.
I wasn't sure that Drew was sent the changes that Michael was suggesting, but it looks like he got them because he's incorporated them.
Yeah, Elizabeth sent them to me and I thought that was great and helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm trying to get it all. Is this too small? I was trying to get it all on one screen, all the changes. But
it's fine.
I can make it. There's still a little on the next page. On the next page, just adding about photos.
Okay. Is there anything contentious about this, or are we done?
has everybody read it? If not, read it now. I'm happy with it.
Right.
Yeah, I am too. I did read it.
This is what we had discussed, right?
And this is the only thing that's new that it's not highlighted is the end of 4, where basically we got clear that the timing of when it can be discontinued. But I think that captured what we talked about.
Okay. And Drew, you're fine with the changes you've added?
Yes, I thought they're appropriate and yes, no problem at all.
Okay. All right, so do we need to vote on this?
We do.
Okay. And sorry, I just procedurally, I just forget, it's a modification of
have an existing order of conditions.
Right, so how does it work? Is this do we just move to approve the modification, right, procedurally?
That's all, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
all right. I move we approve these modifications to the existing order of conditions for Whitney Farm as they've been laid out and edited.
Second.
All right, any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to point out that we might be done before 10:10.
Oh.
I didn't hear
So-
that.
All right,
What about
Yeah, I have discussion though. Just kidding.
expiration dates? Is that covered?
What, yeah, what is the expiration date of the order?
Does it need to be extended? What?
No, it was issued in 2020.
Okay.
okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Jean,
Aye.
Neil, I, Michael,
Aye.
Courtney,
I'm gonna vote slowly, drag it out to 10:10. Just kidding, aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries.
Okay,
Okay,
so there'll be a memo drafted.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm volunteering for that.
You
That
are.
describes the modifications and it'll go to the DEP and into our file and to the applicant.
Excellent.
great. All right, thank you, Drew.
All right, thank you.
All right, take
Good
care. You'll
Night.
miss us.
night.
All right, we've got 8 minutes.
Ugh. Okay, I guess I should have said 10:05.
The signature sheets are in the blue bin. If anyone's bored this weekend, wants to run out in the rain.
What
Okay.
about mosquito control?
It's not on the agenda.
It is, it's on the agenda. Did you
Why
take
do you
it off?
always-
Not on the agenda, Michael.
Oh, then
You
I
always
guess,
have the wrong agenda.
I guess you got to start dating the agendas because I can't tell the difference between.
Well,
there.
there's, what about Coolidge Crossing 4131? Any updates on that?
We didn't talk about 4131 at all. Is there anything?
Well, so
I'll be
the-
back in a minute.
the vote, the official vote happened. And they decided to deny the project based on lack of a water supply and the traffic safety concerns about the fire trucks accessing the Main Street property. They did not have the full denial write-up yet. And it turns out they have a certain number of days. Wow, the rain is getting really loud in here, sorry. They have a certain number of days after they vote to file the decision. And I can't recall what date that was. It wasn't a very long time, like it might have been 7 days or 14 days or something. So it should be filed and posted on the town website soonish.
Well, it's nice to take something off the docket.
Yep, it's in the lawyer's hands now.
Yes, is anybody, I guess, have we heard about the third appraisal? Is that in progress, I guess?
They didn't provide any updates on that stuff during this this last ZBA meeting. In fact, the last two ZBA meetings were like, it was like less than 10 minutes for them to deal with this issue. They didn't spend any time on it, so.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any stories to tell?
It's raining really hard right now. I can't wait
Got,
to engage.
I'll bring up a side issue. I got email from Jonathan at Silverwood,
Oh, yeah.
and hearing the rain today, I have on my list that hopefully I will go down and look at the how the water's flowing after tonight's storm tomorrow.
So he's completed some of the further work.
Right, he's completed, as far as he's completed the work that he needed to do. It's a matter of us reviewing, checking that out, as well as then just seeing how it functions and whether, because it was always going to be a matter of seeing whether it achieves the goals that we want in terms of the flow rates between the old channel and the new overflow area. So we'll just have to see how it performs. And we might be getting a good test, as I hear heavy rains outside here. So we might get a very good test of this. And we'll see if we need to make adjustments. And I'm going to try to go look at it sometime later next week. I don't know.
Can you reach out to me before you go? If I have the chance to go, I'd like to.
Okay, he was talking about something on Wednesday or Thursday next week. I'm not sure about my availability even. I might not be able to do that. So it just might get pushed off. But I'll let everybody know. And we'll see. And I'm also going to be in touch with the two neighbors that are abutting that old channel that I kept in touch with before. And so I'll let them know about how it's going. And I'll ask a question. What is the, can I get sent a agenda for July 15th? Do we have other hearings scheduled?
Yes.
Because I will probably have a select board meeting time there. I guess if Elizabeth can tell me what other times do we have hearings on the 15th?
On the 15th, we have 8 o'clock, we have Coolidge Crossing, 8:45, we have 116 Farm, 9:30, 211 Farm, 9:45, 55 Farm. And 7:30 is the bridge discussion from SFTA.
Okay, but Coolidge Crossing is at 8 to 8:45. And then okay, and then Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which farm? Oh,
116 Farm.
I don't even know what that is. Okay.
They're going to build a retaining wall by the beach to hold back the soil. Similar to the one the neighbor did, I think, last summer, the hills.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Two more minutes. I really think Dan McIntyre should be an associate member.
He's, if I heard right, he's retiring soon.
Oh, yeah?
He did retire from his.
He can't retire. He's doing our septic.
No, he's doing
Sorry
it.
to share the bad news with Brian.
Not
And by
another
the way,
job.
and by the way, if he does this, I want his rates to go down from where they are because now it's easier to go to a test pit.
I forget if it was NSTAR or National Grid. He worked for one of the utility companies, I believe. He just retired from them.
Oh.
Well, on his first day here, our two pandemic puppies were jumping all over him and his wife, and they couldn't have been happier with the situation. They were just hugging the dogs, reinforcing that their bad behavior was acceptable.
There you go.
I guess he can't be an associate until he retires, and there's a 1-year cooling off period.
All right.
We're back.
Almost, right? I'm back. Is that a sneeze?
God bless.
Bless you, if it was. All right, it's 10:10. So we're going to reopen 65 Farm Road. And I guess what I'm thinking is, do we want to do the same thing that we're talking about with 55, lay out some conditions, come back together the next time and bang it out?
We'd have to ask Joyce if she wants to do that.
I'm sorry. So I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Basically just saying that, do you want to would you be willing to do the same thing, draft up some conditions
For the
and
yes,
continue it to the next meeting?
yes.
Okay.
So,
Right.
but
Yes,
55
Michael.
Oh.
Oh, wait, go ahead.
Joyce.
Finish Joyce and then Michael, go ahead.
So you went into great detail to say that the well is being at the 50. I just wanted to point out that the erosion control is at about the 45. Just so you all know. Then I don't think that's a problem. I just want people to be aware of that.
Okay. Michael?
I guess, right. I'd like to see from DeShang also within the week, something about whatever restoration they would do for both properties. In addition to the installation process laid out that we talked about before. I guess this one here, I guess I'll bring up again whether any, I guess I'm struggling a little with whether there's, I guess because there's really not I guess I can't make the case for a significant impact, adverse impact from doing these well installations that that I could push ourselves into some issue about how the wetlands are managed, because I can't tell if they're managed. Are these wetlands and the buffers, how are the wetlands managed now? Or whether we want to make sure that now that we have a delineation, that there's no more management of of at least the area that's inside the resource area, and whether we want to say anything about how the no alteration zone is managed. I have a little trouble with conditioning the no alteration zone, but I think whether we now want to say that whether we don't want any activity, or whether there is some limited activity, we don't want any management of the resource area. I guess I just want to throw that out for comment.
The resource area or the buffer zone?
Two separate issues, but they have different impacts. I mean, we could come out with different results for that.
This area has always been I don't know what they intend to do with it, but you want to have them stop mowing the areas they mow?
I'm just trying to decide whether, now that we know where the wetland is, resource, whether we don't want management of that resource area anymore. For example, if I just limit it to the resource area, whether we want to.
The only thing I know about the management, and Cindy can probably confirm this, is that it used to be that horses were grazed right up into, up to the wetland, and they could walk into the wetland, and that's no longer the case. That's the only management I'm aware of.
That's accurate. What Jean just stated is accurate.
The other thing I wanted to say in response to your comment, Michael, is that I am not in a position to decide that there is no adverse impact to the buffer zone until I see a plan to restore it after the wells are put in.
Okay, but fine, but that's a different issue than for me right. I remember when we had them do the fence. I'm now saying that the wetland line is now 50 feet or whatever it extends a ways into the field. And from a wetlands protection point of view, do we want to allow any continued management of a resource area?
I'm not following you. Sorry.
Did you see, previously we had the fence so that the horses weren't going into the pond itself. But now if you look at the figure, if you look at the, if somebody's sharing the screen.
It's the shack.
Yeah, you can see this.
What are
You can see the bulge. Look at that whole bulge of wetland line, with the wetland line. Yeah, that's a whole bulge of area that previously I don't think we thought of as a resource area. I'm just bringing up whether that all of the resource area that's in the field that's being managed, is that fine for managing a resource area, or do we want to let it?
Are you saying, Michael, that resource area is currently being managed and that buffer is currently being managed? Because it's not.
There's nothing being done to that area?
It's obviously, I mean, it
Been
hasn't,
let go. No
hasn't
one's mowing it. No one's doing anything to it. Not anything that I've seen.
it hasn't been
Not
mowed
since that barn
this
burned
year.
down.
It hasn't been mowed this year, but it has been mowed.
Yeah,
every
I think it's managed to look like that. I have to believe that it's been mowed.
It
And
It was mowed last year when I was there doing the wetland delineation. So it's just the new growth from this year, and they haven't mowed yet, so.
I'll let other people chime in, but I'm concerned about whether we want to continue to allow any management of the resource area.
Hold on. There's a couple people. Cindy, you've had your hand up for a while, and then Brian.
Yeah, my question stems back to the beginning of this whole conversation. So I want to understand, when you said that we are going to continue this to the next meeting, and Joyce would, or maybe it would be Joyce, maybe it would be somebody else that would come up with conditions. And so I'm wondering if the discussion is, if you're implying that the discussion is now over about where those potential wells can be drilled. Are you saying that we're no longer discussing like where
No,
those?
no. Let me put it this way. Until we close the hearing, there's an opportunity for discussion. Joyce is going to draft some conditions based on the concerns that have been raised and I'm assuming the location of the wells where they've been proposed. It doesn't preclude you from making further comments about the locations.
Okay,
I would
great.
think that
Thank you.
most of us, or a lot of us are saying that we don't see a basis for denying.
Right, exactly.
where those
Okay,
wells-
I just have a different opinion because I think when you're digging, I mean, I don't know. I've never dug a well, so I don't really know. But when I dig a hole to put a fence post in, let's say there's dirt coming out of the ground and that dirt has to go somewhere. And typically you dump it right next to the hole that you're digging. So I would imagine when you're digging a well, you're digging pretty deep. There's a lot of dirt coming out and they're going to have to dump it somewhere. And when you dump it and you're on the 50 already, 1 foot of space, or if you're on the 50, no feet of space, you're going into that NAS, you're going into the no alteration zone. You're dumping dirt into the no alteration zone.
We're expecting a construction sequence that will show where those spoils will go and that they'll be moved out of the buffer zone in some appropriate manner and the buffer zone will be restored. Otherwise, they'll be in violation of the order of conditions if they don't restore it appropriately. It will be part of the conditioning, and those spoils, that soil will have to be moved out of the buffer zone is what we
And just a comment to Deshang, that's, seems like a no-brainer. Of course, you wouldn't leave the spoils in the 50-foot no alteration zone, but it's always in your favor to state that somewhere in the narrative.
Well, I'm expecting him to give us a full sequence of installation, all that kind of stuff. Right.
Right.
So I'd like to continue this discussion. I don't understand when you have virgin land and you're looking at introducing wells to land that has not yet been built on, and you have the space to move those wells outside of the 100-foot buffer so that it's not even in our jurisdiction at all. I'm just leaning that way. I don't understand why you wouldn't do that.
Can you give us a significant?
I mean, I understand why they wouldn't do that. The applicant wouldn't do that, but I don't understand why we wouldn't protect everything that we could possibly protect.
The logic is that can you say that temporary disturbance, and maybe it won't take a little while to recover, is going to cause a significant adverse impact to the wetlands?
I think it will cause an impact to the wetlands from the standpoint that it's kind of like sprawl, if you will. So now you have your well there, and then the house goes in, and then they want a yard, and then it just spills over, and there's sprawl.
But the yard and the house are not being proposed. When they are proposed, if you feel that that's going to have an adverse impact, that would be the time to talk about it. And it's not to say that, I think that regulatorily the criteria is, will the work have a significant adverse impact on a resource area? That's unfortunate. I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but that is the criteria to use, because that's all we're assessing here. That's it. So I understand what you're saying, and it's a slippery slope, and there could be other things that happen. But anyway, that's all. Brian, you've had your hand up for a while. Did you want to make a comment?
Besides, he's
And
off.
you're killing me. Like there's a cute dog.
Hey,
Cooper had a comment. No, I just, no, my comments were just two things. Number one, the meadow, Jane maintained the meadow very well, and I'm sure that, other people would maintain it as a meadow. The horses came right up to the street. It was great, and but I don't think that there was specifically a management plan in place for that area. It was just maintained as a pasture for the horses. I was hoping that actually, since Deshang has this plan already like in CAD, if he could just make a PDF of this with all these circles and rings and squares on it and circulate that to the people who attended the meeting tonight, so we would have some further idea of what's going on over there in terms of, we're not holding anyone anything, just in terms of thought process. If they're presenting that as part of their thought process for asking for permission, I think it's only fair that that could be circulated to the people who are attending the meeting.
So the only thing I'd say is this, which is it's while this has been submitted and it's public record and you can certainly have a copy of it, these rings and the proposed, soil absorption systems and houses are not part of our decision-making process right now. In fact, the final site plan that's going to be attached to this NOI will not have this stuff on it because of that fact. It was more of a request for an understanding of why, I guess, the wells were sited where they were. So it's almost like a rationale, but not part of what's being proposed.
Yeah, nevertheless, this is a revised plan that's part of this notice of intent. So it will be in our records. And
Yeah.
It will.
It's
And
public.
you can have a copy of it. It's not a problem. It's a public record.
We
so.
already have things in PDF. So Brian can reach out to maybe Elizabeth or something to get it.
You can just forward the same email she sent us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay.
I want to come back to whether the resource area should be managed. Now that we know that it's no longer just limited to the pond.
Courtney Eck is a vet.
So I have a question. So,
Sure.
So I know Sherborn used to be a pretty rural town, and so they're still, and I work in Sherborn a lot. I driving around. I saw a lot of farms still ongoing, just like this. How technically and the conservation is managing or police this kind of condition. This pond, and from my research, it definitely shows it's a farm pond, and they were used as a farm pond to feed in the cattle or horses, and it was dug in the 80s, as far as I know. If you look in the USGS map, the pond was not there. And what is the right? And so creating a farm pond and to be regulated as it's right now, it's like in just it's isolated wetlands because it's dug in pond and they were using as a farm pond. So as a farm activity, so how that transition can be made or when should be made from a farm and from a farm pond to a resource area and to a residential or whatever down the road. That's I'm not clear, to be honest. I know the farm pond have quite different protection status and requirements than actual quote unquote resource area regulated.
Jean, did you want to answer that?
I can try. Courtney might do it better, but I mean, if it was only a body of water sitting there and not, as long as I lived in Sherborn, they haven't been using it for irrigation. The horses probably did drink out of it, but now they don't, or at least not in the last 10 years. They didn't drink out of that pond because they weren't allowed near it. So it wasn't functioning as an agricultural facility.
Yeah, and also just to add to that, Deshang, just stabling horses on a property is not an agricultural restriction. You need to be breeding horses and selling them. Just stabling horses and riding them on a property, that's not an agricultural activity. Just FYI.
So in a way, when you, like in how many years abandoned, I don't know when was abandoned of, I don't know what the original is. I don't have a record on that. I assume at the time when people dug in that for there's some kind of, if we eat regulated or not regulated, in the old days, people, I come in out of the country, you can dig in any pond for farm pond irrigation, feeding your horses all the time. So, I know we here is not very clear, especially from transition from agriculture to residential, industrial, commercial use. That transition was how that was factored, and what is the status like in
Yeah,
legal
it's
requirements?
it's very clear for an agricultural exemption that horses don't count because they're not an agricultural product when you're just stabling them on your property. So if they haven't used that pond, and this is off the top of my head, maybe 5 years or something.
Longer than that.
Yeah, if they haven't used it to like water crops or raise pigs for meat or something like that, then it's not an agricultural thing.
Right, and then I would add to Shang, to your question about sort of on what basis we're policing, I think that's the word you used. Basically any area, I mean, drainage ditches become wetlands and we regulate those, and that's just the way the state act works, and it's the way our local regulations and bylaw works. And we take each specific instance, everything has its own conditions and situations. How long has it been like that? You know, is it sort of in an existing lawn, or has it been managed in the past? We're really, but just generally our approach to these things is if there's areas where especially there's going to be work done in buffer zones, and there's other places where we can protect the functions and values of buffer zone, we try to do that. And we do that across the board with every project that comes before us. So that's just our approach, and it's always been that way, and it's been very consistent and objectively applied.
Okay, so in a way, I'm asking the questions to try to figure out how to address Michael's question about how these things will. I would assuming in that case, so the 50-foot after it's established, it basically no disturb zone, then have to be observed as a no disturb zone, as a natural restoration happen. So here, and that's all I can think of. I don't know what else.
Well, if it's not been managed in a decade, I
No,
think that if we were to create a condition, it would be that it would continue to not be managed. Michael, I'm not sure exactly what you want to get at with that. So maybe if you can clarify, that would help.
it was mowed last year. I know, as I said, I was there, and I can tell this is definitely not left for a decade. It's not. It's last
Okay.
year when I was there, it was molded all the way to the fence, if I remember right. So
It has to have been mowed every
Right.
year for the last however many years. Otherwise, there would be woody vegetation.
exactly. So it was
Okay.
actively mowed. So
Okay. So, Michael, again, what is it you're trying to determine in terms of management?
I guess it's an ongoing use of a resource area. And then maybe there is no, I'm just trying to, until tonight, until the meeting here, I hadn't thought through about whether if we go reviewing any project, if we saw somebody doing working and managing a resource area, we would try to get them to stop doing that. But usually that would be possibly part of a mitigation, because essentially it's like, and that, so maybe the issue is that, but on the other hand, I'm not sure what would be the best use of that wetland dry area, so to speak, whether how that should be best maintained from a wetland perspective. But I guess in this case, it's ongoing use, just like somebody's mowing a lawn in the inner buffer zone or something like that. I can't tell.
So if they're
it's
doing
something
annual
different.
mowing, maybe you would just restrict it or create a condition where that's all that's permitted is what has been permitted or what has been going on.
I guess, right. Maybe that's all, because I guess we can't make them stop doing what they've been doing historically.
No, and it's
But say-
actually functioning in a very valuable way, the way it's being managed. It's an open grassland, which is really rare. And I'm sure it's serving a lot of value as habitat.
Okay, if that's an argument that managing this particular resource area like this is the better way, or from a wetland perspective, then that's another argument even, or a different argument than just the fact that they can do what they want to do because they've been doing it for years. And that even letting it go would only be, maybe we wouldn't even want that as part of a mitigation issue.
But maybe you would want to make improvements and ask for things like, because we might not want it mowed at a certain time,
Right.
if the idea is to control the woody growth and like preserve its function as a habitat, then we might ask mow it in October or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Like Barbara.
Well, listen, let's do this because I think this is a fine thing to noodle on. I suggest that we continue. I'm not making a motion just yet, but I suggest we continue this hearing. I think we can build up some conditions around the things we know if we're going to permit this, and again, Cindy, it's not the first stall you making comments at the next meeting either. But if we're going to create or draft some conditions around this, maybe we can maybe Joyce, if you can think of a few things, great. Otherwise, I think the rest of us can noodle on it a little bit. And if we want to put in conditions around that when we come back together to finalize it, I think we should do that. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Just if I may ask you to
Please.
clarify, Mike. So I know I have two things to add on the plan, and I'm trying to be we will do as quick as we can. And I believe when we coming up, this plan was not. We definitely don't want to put it at the last minute because we get it for Saturday and we need to get a surveyor to survey the wetlands. So and then we only got it yesterday.
Sure.
For the way. And that's already, I think, in very lightning speed in my experience, especially during this very busy time. And to add in on the plan, I know all the members expressed the concerns about how to manage in the drilling process. So I monitor drilling either this well, but most of the times the monitoring well all the time. So they are not like an excavator. They have very limited.
No.
Soils coming up. We will coming up a plan. Is basically we will shovel those coming up.
So
spoils
Deshang,
to-
all I would say is just come up with, I don't want to necessarily go through it right now. I think all that Michael was asking for is just put it in the plan itself, what you're going to do.
Write it down.
We know that you're going to be responsible and you've done this 100 times. So all we just want the details in writing so that we can understand what the steps will be to make sure to protect the no alteration zone.
Yeah, if I may, that's what I'm trying to say. We will put in writing on the plan to call out for spoil, drilling spoil management. Will shovel it out and the wheelbarrow out to the outside of the buffer zone. If any water testing, pumping need to be done, have to be hosed either into outside of the buffer zone. So.
Okay.
I mean, as simple as that. I don't see that need to be complicated.
And all I was saying was, if it's really simple like that, that's great. I just didn't want to get into a lot of detail tonight because I didn't think it had a lot of value. But
yeah, I will put in writing and add on the plan and
excellent.
We submit it.
All right.
But just for one final question, because some of times say you don't want to have the plan have the conceptual house and SAS marked on it. So I put on for the reference. Do I need to provide in a clean plan, just taking out of them for your final approval or record or conditions?
I don't think that's necessary because what you're asking for has been spelled out already. You're only asking for approval of wells.
Okay. No,
Gene,
as long as you agree.
But doesn't the plan that you submitted yesterday, isn't it the exact same plan just without the SAS and house locations?
I submitted two. I think first I submitted without it, and then I submitted the one because of that request at the meeting. This morning I added to it.
Because I think it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Courtney.
I was just gonna say, is it time consuming to just take those off? Because I'd say, if not, just pop them off while you're typing in the stuff about the.
We have a special notes here.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we already have the plans without those markings, even though you didn't re-revise it. You didn't put in a new revision date when you stuck on the schematic stuff. When I look at the two plans, the one without the schematics and the one with,
Yeah,
they have the same revision date.
That's correct.
So it's hard to
Right, so
distinguish them. We
let,
just want the older one is the one, we need to distinguish between it so that we're just clear that it's the one without all that stuff.
mhm.
right, because hold on, I think it's ripe for confusion to have this as the final plan with the SAS and house markings.
I don't
on
want
it.
it at all, yeah.
I don't want it on there.
I
It's
agree.
part of the public record, but I don't
Yeah.
want it in as the thing that goes with the NOI for approval.
Right.
Okay, no, if that's it, so, but you do want the drilling management, so.
Yes,
So on it, so I will have a revision date and adding that on and take out the SAS and the houses. And
great,
yeah, just this one just for the presentation discussion.
exactly, okay,
Okay, no, that's
Um,
clear. That's clear now.
great. Anything else from the commission on this for right now? Okay, so I move that, well, let's see, Elizabeth, can we put this one also on the 7:15 agenda?
We can, it would be 10:15, that gives you 30 minutes for 55 farm. Is that good?
Oh.
Is that enough time?
We want to do it earlier because we could always put it off a little bit, but we can't always move it up.
No, I don't think there's any
There's
earlier.
nothing.
No, I'm talking about do it at 10 o'clock, just in case we get through, because, oh no, because we're doing him at 9:45 for 55 farm. Do it at 10 o'clock for 65, and we could always push it out rather than waiting around if we somehow get done earlier.
Sure.
Yeah, that's, well, let me say this, if we get done with 55 in 15 minutes, that'd be amazing, but let's do it because I don't think it's just a little bit of procedural gymnastics we might have to do, which is fine. All right, I move that we continue this hearing until July 15th at 10 o'clock.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, Neil, aye. Jean,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. All right, so we'll see everybody next 2 weeks from today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I hope we have nothing else. Do we have other things?
No.
Okay. All right. In that case, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, Neil, aye. Jean,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Wonderful. The motion carries. Thank you, Joyce. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Joyce. See you.
Thank you, Joyce.